spotlights will come down on.
No. Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's 1:03. We're tardy for the party. But I wanted to say thank you so much for being present, and hopefully they can turn the lights up a little bit more because it looks a little dark back here. But I wanted to thank everyone for coming. I really do appreciate you coming before us so that we can hear some of the concerns and issues that you might think that we need to listen to prior to session. We are trying to make sure that we hear from you before then and during session so that we can have a wide variety of information from you and others to get started. I want to thank my co-chair, Martha Marks, for being here, and I want to give her some time to say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you all out there in Zoom world for being here. I look forward to hearing your concerns and see what we can do to help you in this next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to echo the comments made by the chairs. Thank you all for being here today in service of allowing this committee to hear from veterans and veteran leaders what we should do on behalf of veterans and veteran leaders. So thank you for your service and thank you for being here today. I'm looking forward to getting started.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Likewise, I'm glad to see everybody here, including those who are going to be joining us via the Zoom link. I'm looking forward to listening and learning, finding out what more we can do, working with you and working for you. And a big thank you to all of our veterans, and a big thank you to all who are currently serving in the armed forces. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I think this meeting is long overdue. It's nice to get everybody here in the same room, talk about different ideas and prepare. I think this is something we should probably do every year in and around Veterans Day. Things change constantly. So if we meet like this and you guys keep us up to date, I think a lot of the problems that we have is communicating and overlap with the different services that are available and communicating that. And I think that's important that you guys come up here, tell us what you do, tell us what you need us to do. I look forward to hearing everything, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Brian Lanou, State Representative from the 45th House District in Eastern Connecticut, comprising of 5 great towns. And I just want to welcome all the veterans who are here today. Want to give you in big, bold letters, capital letters, thank you, thank you, thank you for your service to our country. We owe you a debt of gratitude. In addition to that debt that we owe you, I just wanted to share, I've been thinking about our veterans, and I think about people who are successful in what they do, whether it's in different sectors of the economy, some of our best teachers, mentors, people who are really helping others. When people who are very successful at that, what's the common denominator of all those people? What do they have in common? I noticed quite a few of them are veterans. They're veterans of our country, and they perform very well in with other sectors of what we in our society. So we want to make sure we give you every advantage, every tool in your toolbox to succeed. We need to know what those tools are, what you guys need and women need. The way we need to know, the way we learn that and understand that is from listening and talking to veterans. So today is your opportunity to please communicate to us what you need. And I will, as a legislator, will certainly do whatever I can to help with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Senator Olson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say welcome to the General Assembly. As the General Assembly's only female veteran, I welcome you all here today. And I really think that it's important to hear what you have to say, and I look forward to the hearing. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank, during this week of Veterans Week, I want to thank you all for your service. I want to share just a brief anecdote. My grandfather came from Greece, and he escaped war when Turkey and Greece were at war as a young kid. He came to our country. He started off in Astoria. He made it to Connecticut. He opened a business, met my grandmother, and my dad was born. And right after, when my dad was an infant, he was called up to fight in World War II. And he didn't even hesitate, because he loved this country, and he loved the fact that he could come here, get educated, have a family, start a business. And when my dad was getting older, and he was so proud, he had 4 kids, he put them through American high school. And when my dad was a senior in high school down in New London, he said, "Hey, Pop, I got into UConn. I want to go to college." And he said, we can't afford it." So my dad applied for an ROTC scholarship, and he went to college, and then he served during the Vietnam era in Germany, and came back and spent 27 years in the Army Reserves, made it to the rank of lieutenant colonel. And my father never told me that I had to be in the military. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I took a different path of service. I got into government. But he said to me, "Chris, you got to give back." And he said, "You got to give back to those communities." And so I'm grateful. I've learned his lesson. They've told me their stories, my grandfather, my dad. And it's a story of unity. We're in some pretty divided times now, but through service, through patriotism, we're united. And so I thank you for your example, for your service. I ask you this week, if you're in schools, if you have family, young children, to tell your story of service. It's a great path forward for our country. It's a unified path forward for our country. So thank you for your service, and thank you for sharing your story and everything you can share with us today.
Rep. Anderson, representing the 62nd District. I felt very strongly about being on the Veterans Committee as a veteran of 28 years. So I've been in your shoes, and I'm involved with a Legion in my town that is very active and growing, which gives me a lot of hope. And I really appreciate the chairs and leadership scheduling this hearing right around Veterans Day. While we don't have the urgency of a session, we can be very deliberate about what we want to accomplish next session. Thank you.
Thank you all for speaking. And I just want to put out a reminder that not only we here representing and speaking on behalf or for the voices of veterans, but also military personnel that are in service. We don't want to make sure we don't leave them out, but I just wanted to make sure people understood that. And we're going to go right to the list so we can start listening and hearing. And the first person is Manuel Meneses. Yes. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, sir. And then we're going to move right on to Representative Michelle Cook. Are you on Zoom? No. Okay. Representative Khanna. I don't know if we can make a call because I think these lights should be brighter.
Representative Nolan, if we make the lights brighter, then the projector turns off. So that's why we were doing that. Sorry.
Okay.
Representative Khan should be in the Zoom now.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, honorable members of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committees. My name is Rachel Khanna. I'm the state representative for the 149th District of Connecticut. Thank you for hosting this forum and for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. And I'd like to thank the veterans and active service members who are in attendance for all of your service. I wanted to share what I've been hearing in conversations I've had with veterans and members of the military in my district in the hope that they can better inform how we as legislators address the needs of active service members and veterans in our state. I recently spoke to someone who currently works for the Connecticut Army National Guard. He noted that there's been a decrease in recruiting and retention and feels that this is because people are incentivized to work in the private sector rather than the Army. He also noted that he would like to see more tax incentives for those working in the Army. And I've also been told that veterans find it difficult to go back into the civilian workforce due to the need for vocational support and training. Someone mentioned a boots to business bill, as well as employer tax credits to incentivize employers to locate, hire, and retain veteran talent. These are some of the things that I've been hearing from veterans in my district. And like I said, I hope these will inform the work we do as legislators to address the needs of active service members and veterans in our state. And thank you for your time.
Our next speaker will be, let's see, Robert Lewis from the American Legion. How are you, sir? Could you press that little button there, sir, and light up that mic? Thank you.
Okay. Chairman Nolan, I'm Dan Thurston. I'm past department commander for the American Legion, Department of Connecticut, and K. Robert Lewis, unfortunately, had to fall out today due to a medical issue, but asked me to fill in for him. We had a meeting on Monday, and I spoke with him today regarding a few issues.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you just repeat your name again? Could you repeat your name again?
Dan Thurston, Thurston.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. The one of the key issues again is the property exemption. Last I'm aware of that it was taken up was in 2019, and that did make some advances. I checked through my records and didn't have a record of whether that actually was made into law, but I know it was taken up on the floor. I think that's a good starting place, certainly either to ensure that that has been put in place or to work from there to improve the benefits for veterans. One of the key issues is that there's a question in that are there how much the towns are allowed to go beyond what the state reimburses them for, for veterans. So the towns that, have the resources to give an additional benefit on top of what the state is reimbursing them for. So that'd be one thing to look at and see what the, if there are any restrictions or whether they're free to do as they, as they choose. Second thing, and this was an issue that probably long-term standing, certification for military training into civilian jobs. The one of the things that we looked at was especially for people that were in the medical field, corpsmen, nurses, that their training, is probably far better than what we find coming from the civilian training. The key issue in talking to some of the people that were in the medical field in the military is the transition regarding laws that the state has in place concerning how they need to apply treatment, what they can or cannot do. And that is, probably one of the areas that should be concentrated on in drafting, provisions for acceptance of their training and military background. Similarly, and this has been addressed in part, heavy equipment operators in the military, again, have good training in the operation of vehicles, and so it's a question of how well does that fit into the civilian, and what needs to be what additional training they might need to take those types of positions open. The third item is veterans that are applying for benefits through private companies. There are a number of companies, law firms and other companies that provide services, and they are charging the veterans for those services. Our recommendation has come through the veterans organizations. We supply that the service to get them into the VA, get their benefits established, and there is no cost. Business, obviously, they have to pay for their operations somewhere, but on the other hand, we don't believe that it should be put onto the backs of the veterans, and that the veterans need to be considered if they want to handle that type of thing. The veterans should need to be considered as to what they're capable of handling as far as any payments and how that payment should be done. So those are the key issues directly related to veterans. I was thinking before I left home that one issue not only is concerned to veterans, but also to the general population, is the issue of that there are nefarious operators out there that are going in and taking control of a person's property, filing either a lien or other paperwork against their property, and then having the person lose control. I think it's especially vulnerable on the veterans side, because if they're deployed, they have property in the home or other property, and somebody comes and files something against it. It might be some time before they actually learn about it. One possible solution is the requirement that any changes that are made to personal property status, that there's an automatic notice to the property owner that change. As many of the credit card companies operate on this principle. I know personally on 3 occasions I've had bogus charges come up, and the I got an immediate notification from the credit card company, based on my spending patterns, that this was something, entirely unusual. And to verify that the transaction was correct, we verified that it was fraudulent, and it was immediately taken care of. So that type of a system can work very well in terms of protecting property owners, not only military, but also general civilian. I thank you for your time and your consideration on these issues. Answer any questions that I can if you have. Okay, thank you very much.
You'll hear go off. If you do not get to finish, then some of us will stay afterwards and talk to you about what you did not get to finish. But we want to make sure everybody gets to speak for at least 4 minutes. Okay? How you doing, sir?
Sir, I am doing very well. It is so good to see you again, Chairman.
Yes.
And thank you for being the guest speaker at the Veterans Coffee House in Niantic.
Thank you, sir.
I am the East Line Veterans Representative, and I am the first point of contact for a lot of veterans on veterans benefits, state, federal, and also a lot of the veteran organizations and also nonprofit organizations interested in helping veterans. With that, I have an awful lot of information that I can't get to veterans that need to hear it. I need help getting this information to those that need to hear it so that their lives will be more comfortable for the services they did. One of the best ways that I've found to get veterans interested is a veterans coffee house. Veterans getting together, talking about veteran issues. I coordinate the coffee house in Niantic. I've had Representative Nolan as a guest speaker. Manny Meneses is going to be the guest speaker tonight. It is a very good place for veterans getting together, talking veteran issues. I also visit veterans that are homebound and in nursing homes, again, to get the information that they need to hear. I have an outreach program that I get lots of information from many sources, and I'm trying to keep veterans updated on PACT Act, on community health care, and other information that they need to be aware of. I have written 10 steps on how people can help veterans. I have copies, paper copies here, if you did not receive the electronic version, because I would like the committee to pay notice to number 2 on that list. Get a copy. Number 2 on the list is the DD 214s.
I'm thinking it's this. Yeah.
I would like to see the committee put out a public announcement telling veterans that when they register their DD 214s in town hall, they are eligible for a tax deduction, which varies between town and town. But it is a means of the state of Connecticut to count the number of veterans in a municipality. With that, we can have a direct contact for veterans by mail, email, that they can be upgraded and be informed of the benefits that they deserve. In that, I also would like the Municipal Veterans Committee here on Bill 338, Municipal Veteran Services, to use the veterans themselves as an outreach program in each municipality, dealing with the veteran organizations and nonprofits that are in their area, that they can share the information with those veterans other than just VA benefits and state benefits. I also would like to make available this 10 steps so that it's all veteran municipalities can use the 10 steps in helping veterans getting the information and the benefits they've been promised. This is locally designed for Connecticut Shoreline East, but it can be very easily adapted to any municipality in the area. With that, I will open it for any questions as a veterans representative and the first point of contact on how to get benefits to the veterans that they deserve.
Thank you, sir. I just want to let you know that I appreciate your coffee houses and the information that you give out. I do look forward to trying to connect with you along with committee members in regards to having an advocacy day here where we can give out that information also. So we did something similar last year, but I think we have now enough tutelage behind us and the experience of many of you that are here and that are watching to make it even on a grander scale, where we can just have one day where we can just have veterans and military personnel come and get information in regards to the benefits and things that are available for veterans and military personnel.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciated.
Anyone else? Co-chair Marks? Senator Marks, sorry.
Hi, sir. Actually,
Good
you're,
afternoon, ma'am.
hi, nice to meet you. You're in my district.
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, so I've been to other of the coffee houses during the day, and I will make sure I get to yours in the evening. My aide will reach out to you, and this is very thorough, and I'd like the number 2 that you talked about. And as a visiting nurse who goes into the homes with a lot of vets, there is a lot that they don't know. So I agree with you, and let's see how we can work together to make this better.
I look forward to it and
Yeah.
getting this information to those that need to hear it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Buckby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming to see us, sir. I just want to echo one of the things you said too. In a lot of this information this past week, I took my father to the Danbury VA for a checkup, where they kind of do a great backup checkup to his primary physician and let him know more of what he's available to receive. And that's what you're talking about here. I love the idea of bringing this back to Western Connecticut a little bit and to New Milford and let them know what you've established to start doing there. Because this is, it's critical. Bringing my father in, he didn't know some of the stuff he was available to receive. He's at a smaller disability than what he's available to receive for disability. And at 84 years old, he needs the help he can get.
Yes.
He was told before that drivers weren't available to take him to doctor's appointments. There weren't anyone there. And they said, if you found there was no one there, you let me know. Here's another number, somebody else we can call to work this out. So I think what you're saying hits home directly from what I just lived this past week in bringing Dad to that, and then needing what we can do to help out the different areas. I think what you've done here deserves a lot of recognition for getting this going, and thank you for all you're doing. I just want to say thank you for that, and thank you for allowing this something else to bring back to the district to spread across the state. So thank you for that, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sir, I greatly appreciate that. I have found that there's nothing sadder in doing this job than reaching a veteran that's in the autumn of his life, and I talk to him about his benefits, and by the time he gets into the paperwork mill, I am too light to get his hearing aids and get other services. I get to say the eulogy at his memorial service. So I would like to reach veterans as soon as possible about the benefits that they've been promised.
Thank you so very much for that. I can't tell you how much that's worth in bringing back to district. I seriously, thank you so much, sir. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Laney.
Sir, I'd like to start by thanking you for your service and for your participation here today. The question I'd like to ask is, in your opinion, what has been the biggest barrier to our veterans submitting their DD-214s to their municipalities that you have seen? And the reason I ask that, in Stamford, where I come from, our VFW and our American Legion members have told me that one of their biggest barriers for not wanting to submit their DD-214s was because they didn't think that there was a substantive barrier or a substantive benefit that they would get to do it. So while we do have a percentage of veterans in Stamford that have submitted their DD-214s, to our town hall and to our registrar, it has been an ongoing effort to get more veterans to do so. So in your opinion, what has been the biggest barrier in your municipality?
Number one, a public announcement testifying, veterans, are you getting the benefits you promised? And let them know about the DD 214s, the tax exemption. Once that is done, then you can have a mailing list so that they can be informed on further veterans through the VA, through the veteran services, through nonprofits. But in my mind, number one, you have to start with on the list, like it is, number two, the DD 214s registered in town hall.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for your service, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, and I am honored.
Cool.
Anyone else? Thank you again, sir. We'll see you soon.
Thank.
Our next speaker will be David McAfee from Summers Department of Veterans Affairs. Is he maybe online?
Not seeing him online, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Number 7 would be Thomas Patterson from the American Legion Stanford Veterans Resource.
He's on his way.
On his way. Okay. And how about Donna Dognan from Veterans Strong Community Center?
I have her online, Representative Nolan. I'm adding her right now.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Representative Nolan and members of the Veterans Committee. My name is Donna Donyan. I am the founder and executive director of Veteran Strong Community Center based in Bristol, Connecticut. We service 6 communities surrounding Bristol, and we are a nonprofit. I've been doing this type of work now for 12 years. And I have 2 things that I would like the committee to consider during this next legislative session. Firstly, with the municipal vet rep program, I feel it does need an overhaul. A little anecdote, there was a local vet rep who's listed with the state of Connecticut as being the vet rep for his town, who I reached out to for additional resources for a veteran from that town. However, was met with that all they're concerned about is helping with Soldier, Sailors, and Marines Fund applications. The particular veteran that needed help was on the verge of homelessness, and this vet rep, who's again listed with the state as being the vet rep, had no resources to pass on and provide to that veteran. I do think that the municipal vet reps need to be vetted better. They should have their information available on their town's website so that people can contact them. And they should have hours of operation of when they're available if they are limited hours. My second concern that I would like the committee to consider is in regards to Connecticut General Statute 27-102L subsection B1, which in part states that to be a veteran service officer working for the state of Connecticut, you have to be a veteran. Again, I've done this work for 12 years. I myself am not a veteran. My father was a Vietnam veteran, and many members of my family are veterans. But I caution that you may be doing a disservice in requiring that a service officer has to be a veteran. I understand the reasoning that a veteran knows a veteran best, but in regards to filing claims and getting the paperwork done and everything, I really don't think personally that being a veteran, if you have two candidates who are, one is more qualified with the exception of not being a veteran, but you hire the one that is an okay applicant because they are a veteran, are you doing a disservice to the veterans that we're there to help? If you have any questions, I'm available. I know I've reached out and we will be inviting the committee to come and see Veteran Strong Community Center as a model for what the municipal vet rep program can look like. And hopefully we can do that sometime in the next month or so. But if you have any questions for me, I'd gladly entertain them.
Thank you for coming before us. And I'm going to pass it over to Chairman Marks to respond. Representative Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start off, ma'am, by thanking you for your service and for speaking to us here today. I can tell you that as a currently serving sergeant in the United States Army, who fairly recently made transition from active duty to the reserves, I have personally felt the need for the expansion of the Municipal Veterans Representative Program. I can tell you that in the last legislative session, we did make an effort as a committee to expand that program, to put more resources and personnel to it. But I can tell you that I agree wholeheartedly, and it is our hope that we can expand that program in the future. So thank you, ma'am, for being here today.
Senator Marks.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Dognan, for your testimony. So like we said, we did put a little bit more teeth into the municipal program, but I'm not going to go through exactly what it is, but we also did add 2 new VSOs, which are the Veteran Service Officers. And I think we have to remember that the municipal Veteran Service representatives are volunteers. They're not trained social workers, and that their responsibility is to get the veteran to the right resources. And so I just think we have to always remember that they're to get them to the VSOs to help them. So, you know, it's a work in progress. It just got passed. We just have to give it a little bit more time, and maybe we can see some more improvements. I don't know if the 2 new VSOs have been hired. I met with the VSO for Eastern Connecticut a couple weeks ago, and she thought that they had not yet been hired, that the jobs were posted. So just give us a little bit of time. We are working on it, and we did address this in our last session. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Marks. I do notice Mr. Carragher in the audience, and he is the overseer of the VSOs. Could you come forward and explain that there are some trainings that are given and a little bit about the program? And if you could just state your name and your office.
Yes, sir. Good morning. John Carragher with the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs. Good afternoon. Yes, sir. In reference to the Municipal Veterans Representative Program, we are looking to expand that program. And as numerous people said, that's kind of the first line of defense for the veterans seeking services within a municipality, because who knows better what services are available in a municipality to a veteran than someone in the municipality. That person may or may not be a volunteer or an employee of the town. Some different towns do things differently. As Ms. Dongan mentioned, she works, and her organization works for a group of towns, which is a great way to pool resources. And then to your second question, to the additional VSOs that the committee and the legislature authorized last session, I expect that a additional VSO and a VSO supervisor will be hired probably by the 1st of December, maybe the middle of December. But I have received all the applications. The positions have closed and we're in the process of scheduling interviews. Did I answer all of your questions, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you did, and thank you so much. And before Mr. Carricker steps down, he can go. Gentlemen, Senator?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and it's good to see you again, Mr. Carragher. I know we had a meeting with the commissioner and you. I was there, so
Yes, sir.
I know we talked a lot about this issue. So I just want to say we to echo what's been already discussed, we have done some work this past session. We all recognize there's more work to do, and I want to thank you and the members of the department and the commissioner for moving this forward. And as you said, you're looking into hiring hopefully soon. December's not too far away. And then we can see how that works with the additional personnel, and then very much welcome feedback from you, from the commissioner, as far as what more we can do, any further expansion, further support. So I look forward to seeing the changes roll out with the new personnel and learning more what we might be able to do next session and beyond.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Important to note that our current 10 veteran service officers formally represent about 9,000 veterans across the state of Connecticut, which is a significant number. And we look forward to doing as much and more with the resources that were allocated.
Representative Val?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. To me, every town, there's a baseline minimum that we ask. I think it's way too low because some towns do it well, some towns don't. Some towns pool resources, which is great. I'm fortunate enough to represent a district that's done it pretty well over time because we have the right volunteers in place or the right thing. I think, and I want your opinion because you deal directly with this, that maybe we should put a little bit higher expectation on the minimum amount of services provided by the municipal reps.
Yes, sir. And I don't think I would disagree with you. But I would also, as with anything else, I would just caution that, it's a resource requirement that we would put on the municipalities. I think from a policy perspective and a legislative perspective, in order to influence that program, some help to the municipalities to better implement the municipal veterans representative program that we have in statute would probably be very much appreciated by the municipalities and the veterans.
I like your train of thought. Because I agree with you. I don't like doing mandates, but I do also think when it comes to veterans, there should be some uniformity. You shouldn't receive better services because you have a better municipal rep in one town than you do in another. And if there was some expectation, I agree with you, and maybe we could back that up with some dollars from the state. I'm certainly more interested in hearing that, but if you have any suggestions on what maybe at least the minimum requirements would be for services or anything to improve that statute and that expectation, I'm sure this committee would be happy to hear your suggestions.
Yes, sir. And again, the important part is who knows best what is available locally, and that is the person that is there in the municipality. And speaking a little bit selfishly, for those 10 VSOs that we have working for us out there, I would rather, although the inquiries are just as important as anything else, I would rather have those 10 veteran service officers working on claims that need to be submitted to the federal VA than working on, and again, not to diminish the importance of the request, but then to be working on how does the veteran get to his or her doctor's appointment. Again, very important question. But if I have the person that is very much aware of what that resource is in whatever town we are in, I would rather have that person, helping to answer those questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
sir.
it. And just going to rewind for a moment and see if Mr. McAfee is came. No. How about Mr. Patterson? Come on up, sir, and right at the mic. Mr. Patterson's from American Legion in the Stamford area. I'm very well. Can you
Thank
just
you.
press that button right up there and light up your mic? There you go.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
And you're on our list to speak today?
Yes. My name is Thomas Patterson. I'm one of the Stanford Veterans Resource Reps at the Stanford Veterans Resource Center. Also, I'm Vice Commander of the American Legion, Chapter 3, Stanford, Connecticut, Veterans Advocate. The concerns of veterans in our community, we're looking on a municipal level, is we'd like to see a little bit more tax relief and a little bit more funding from the state as far as a municipal rep standpoint. Not to take anything away from the veterans, the VSOs. I think the VSOs are doing an awesome job, but they can also use some assistance. And at our center, what we do is we educate and empower veterans on resources and services and make sure that they know the needs of medical care, healthcare, and housing. So basically, we're basically like, the easiest way to describe it is we're like air traffic controllers. We're not the experts, but we can get you to the whatever flight or whatever you're taking off, whatever gate, we direct you here, flight, whatever you take off this way. If you need medical care, we send you to the VA to get connected to the VA healthcare system. We also work with other partners in our area like Silver Source and Person to Person for veterans that are who don't meet the criteria of service benefits and services. We don't turn veterans away because there's no one size fits all. Veterans come in many shapes, sizes, and forms, and each issue of a veteran is different. It can vary from healthcare to housing to the needs of financial. So at the center, what we do is we have monthly workshops where we educate veterans on issues such as housing, such as compensation, such as healthcare. So that's pretty much what we do. And I also would like to see a little bit more tax breaks for mainly our disabled veterans. California just recently passed a bill. Don't quote me on the numbers, but it's 800 and something thousand per, might be 868,000 where they get a tax break. That's asking for too much, but any tax relief we could get for our disabled veterans here would be thankfully appreciated. There's a lot of veterans that are really struggling, and in Fairfield County, Connecticut is one of the highest places to live in the state of Connecticut. And we're losing veterans, not only in Fairfield County, but throughout the state of Connecticut. And any tax relief, any tax breaks we could get would be greatly needed and thankful for. Thank you.
It isn't a question, it's just a quick statement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patterson, thank you for taking the trip all the way up here from Stanford. I just wanted to say that the work that you and the other volunteers at our Municipal Veterans Resource Center, the work that you do is invaluable. And my constituents, our veterans, are very, very well served from the work that you do. So thank you for being here and thank you for testifying.
Well, thank you. I couldn't do it without the help of my fellow colleagues, like my partner, Tom Finn, and Cesar Cesar. We have Alan Gerard. I see Reverend Hill in the background over there as well. And there's numerous other veterans that come in they come in with free of charge, no pay. Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 1 p.m. There's about 8 volunteers that are dedicated, and we come in there and we're excited about helping veterans, and we're there to educate and give them whatever resources that they need. And it's an honor for me to serve with them. And thank you, Representative Delaney, Representative Nolan, for having us come down to this forum today so we can help educate our other legislators on the needs of the veterans in this community, in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
Representative Lanu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm well, and you, sir.
I'm well, thank you. And thank you again for your service, and thank you for helping fellow veterans, and thank you for educating us. Question I have, I'm curious about, as you're trying to guide different veterans to get to the appropriate services they need, aside from age-related issues, do you notice like a trend with veterans that served during, like, say, a certain period of time, whether it was the Vietnam era or Iraq and Afghanistan, Gulf War? Do they demand certain do they require certain services or certain needs over other veterans based on the time that they served?
That's a two-part question. That's a yes, and it's also a no. The yes part is most veterans who have served during time of combat, there's a order of a PTSD, which is a very common for a veteran that's also served in a combat zone. But equally, a veteran who didn't serve in a combat zone might have been hurt in a truck accident, or the truck tipped over and they suffer from a TBI. So equally, they both might have some kind of mental disorder, but in a different way. But yeah, whether you served in combat or not, it's a different need for each veteran. And the VA, I'm not the expert, but it's up to the VA to decide what's the need of that veterans and what services they need. But from my standpoint, I think that all veterans, but particularly, yes, veterans that have served in combat, I do think they need a little bit more support. But in general, it's usually the VA looks at it as a compensation scale from 0 to 100. 100 being the highest, 0 being the lowest. And that could go as far as tax relief. It could go as far as disability services. So it's the higher the scale you get, the more services and the more relief you get on the federal side. So if you own a home or if you have a mental disorder or whatever, or PTSD or an injury, if you're on the higher scale, you'll get more compensation, more medical care, more support for your family, for kids to go to school, things to that sort. The lower you get, the lower resources you'll get as far as on the federal side.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming before us, sir.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Have a nice day. I'm going to shift a bit for purposes of people having to leave, if you don't mind. Mr. Ray Higgins. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Raymond Higgins, and I currently reside in the town of Southington. I served on active duty with the U.S. Navy from December 29th, 1975 to December 28th, 1979, and was honorably discharged. Current guidelines that I am aware of provide certain veterans who served at least 90 days on active duty during recognized periods of prolonged conflict a property tax exemption. From July 1st, 1975 to August 2nd, 1990, a segment of a period commonly referred to as the Cold War is not a recognized period of conflict, with some exceptions for Grenada, Panama, and other brief periods. However, I am not eligible to receive the tax exemption from my active military service based on the aforementioned guidelines. During my 2 deployments to the Mediterranean Sea with the U.S. Sixth Fleet, while stationed aboard the aircraft carrier USS America CV-66, there were numerous occurrences of Soviet naval and air assets attempting to intimidate or engage our battle group. Because of the inherently dangerous environment aboard an aircraft carrier, several crashes occurred during flight operations, resulting in the loss of several pilots, aircraft, flight deck, and shipboard personnel. Cold War veterans served as the vanguard of security against the Soviet Union during a critical period in our nation's history. whichever military branch of veterans served honorably, they should be eligible to receive a tax exemption benefit regardless of when or where they were stationed in service to their country. A veteran is a veteran. Thank you.
Thank you for coming before us, sir. Representative Poulos.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins, for making the trek up from Southington. Not a question, just a comment. First, thank you for your service. And I think now more than ever, the importance of our veterans, our Cold War veterans, is apparent. So I hope that we can find a way to respond to your concerns in our upcoming legislative session. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Mr. Baldwin.
He's online, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Baldwin.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Raymond Baldwin Jr. I'm a Marine Corps Vietnam veteran. I was former first selectman in the town of Trumbull, and I am the veterans representative for the town of Trumbull. I'm also currently the chairman of the building committee for the Trumbull Veterans and First Responders Center, which has been sponsored by Senator Marilyn Moore and Representative Sarah Keat. Our aim is to create a center where veterans can receive services, reentry services, such as what's been mentioned before, healthcare benefits, job training, and other services that they need to reenter into society. While at the same time, providing an opportunity for our first responders in the greater Trumbull area to have a location where they can also do training in an environment that's conducive to that. We don't have a lot of training facilities in our area, general area. As I said, Senator Moore and Representative Keat have sponsored a bonding issue, or got us a bonding issue rather, of $1.5 million to get seed money for it. And we also received money from the federal government. And we intend to service the over 30,000 veterans in the greater Trumbull area. That includes Bridgeport, Monroe, Stratford, Shelton, Fairfield, Easton. And we are there's a bonding request before the state of Connecticut right now for an additional 1.2, so that we can go out to bid and get this building constructed. Like I said, the municipal service representative for veterans in Trumbull. We have a large veteran population in the area, which I believe is underserved. We have a great facility in West Haven. We have other services down in the Stamford area, but there's a large gap between Stamford and West Haven that we'd like to fill. And we'd really like to get the support of your committee, the governor, to get us over the top and get us the additional $1.2 million we need to do this, complete this center.
Thank you, sir, for coming before us. Is there any other questions? And Senator Marks, if you can take over for now.
Yep. Thank you, Chair Nolan. All right, next we have Diane Nadeau from the Eastern Connecticut Veterans Community Center, I believe.
She's online, Madam Chairwoman.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
You can or cannot?
Oh, there you are. Yep. Hi.
Great. Well, thank you very much. My name is Diane Nadeau. I am the Executive Director of the Eastern Connecticut Veterans Community Center, located in Willimantic, Connecticut. And I want to thank you all for making this happen. I think it's really important for you to get feedback from people who deal with veterans on a regular basis. And we are a location that does that. So thank you very much. One large priority that I would like you to consider is we are hearing a lot of feedback from case managers and people working with our homeless veterans in particular, that they are trying to get them into the housing, the veteran housing. And if they have a service dog, they're not allowed to come. And that's, I think, kind of shameful, because service dogs should be allowed anywhere for housing. And for us not to allow them in our own veteran housing facilities, I think needs to be addressed. They're not giving, no one is giving anyone any reason for this. If private landlords need to accommodate them, I think that our VA centers can. So that is one very large thing. Also, I know a few people spoke today about the coffee houses. Coffee houses are peer-to-peer support groups. And when we are having issues right now with getting mental health care to veterans, especially in Eastern Connecticut, it sometimes can take 2 to 4 weeks before someone is able to get in to see someone, and then their appointments are every 6 weeks. That doing other grassroots types of support systems, pastoral care, counseling, especially those that have been trained for PTSD and depression, or even the coffee houses, which are peer-to-peer support groups, should be considered important appointments for veterans if they need to get transportation to and from those meetings, as well as if in the future there is any funding for these kinds of suicide prevention or PTSD type support programs, that coffee houses are considered in that group. And one other thing I'd like to just bring to your attention is that here in Connecticut, we include veterans compensation for a medical or for a loss. So if they lose a limb or have a disease or illness due to their service, we consider that income here. Many other states in our country do not consider that income. And what we're finding is that with some veterans who are looking for housing, it increases their costs or it makes them ineligible for other support programs, which just puts them at further risk. So it would be nice if we could look and see whether or not we can remove that and have their compensation claim. So retirement pay is one thing, but a compensation claim due to their service, we would like not to be included as income here in Connecticut. I also think that I know that we talked about municipal representatives, and I think that that program has undergone some great changes, but something that is very important is to have a good comprehensive list of who they are in each community and how to contact them. We here at our Veteran Center, we saw 15,000 veterans last year. We average about 100 a week. And when they come to us for help, it's very hard for us to direct them and refer them to the right person in their communities, because I can't find a list of who they all are. So if that could be made public, that would be really, really helpful to all of us. I think those are some of the most important issues that we are encountering here. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Thank you so much, Diane. Chair Nolan?
Thank you, Chairman Mark. Just to rewind, were those animals that you talked about, were those service animals?
Yes, sir. Yep. We've had 2 veterans in our community that we worked with VA social workers, and they then worked with housing there in Rocky Hill, and they were denied housing because they had a service dog.
All right. If you don't mind, could you send us an email in regards to that? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's the law that, those dogs are allowed, and someone cannot deny those dogs. So we'd like to follow up on that.
Okay.
That is taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will do that. Are there any other questions?
Yep, Ranking Member Gordon.
Thank you, Senator Marks. And just to quickly follow up on what Chair Nolan said, I thought it is required. And I know, and one of the things I do, other than being a state senator, is I'm a doctor, and I do take care of a lot of veterans. I've actually certified lots of service animals and service dogs. So I thought that was something. So I'm interested to learn more. But I also want to thank you, Diane. I represent the 13 towns up in Northeast Connecticut and been a town official for many years in Woodstock. So I know very well what the various coffee houses can do, including the one in for the Danielson Veterans Coffee House. And I do agree with you that that type of venue for peer-to-peer group support can go a long way to helping veterans. So I'm interested to hear more at offline, doesn't have to be today, about what more we can do to help veterans access those types of resources. Because if those are meaningful resources, which I can attest to, they are, having talked with lots of veterans in my district, and especially in my town of Woodstock, that should be something we should be highlighting and promoting and doing all that we can to support the veterans. So I just want to highlight that point, see what more we can do. And again, thank you, Diane, for all the work that you and your colleagues do locally for our veterans.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Diane. We appreciate all you do.
Great, thank you.
Next we have Karen Edmondson from Stamford Veterans Resource Center.
Yes, they're joining us online, Madam Chairwoman.
Can you see me now?
Yep, we hear you
Okay.
and we see you. Yep.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, state reps and state senators of the Connecticut General Assembly. My name is Kieran Edmondson, and I am a 14-year a person of the Waterside neighborhood of Stamford, Connecticut, and I am very proud to be serving as a volunteer representative of the Stamford Veterans Resource Center since February 23rd, 2023, just 1 week after the grand opening ceremony for the center. With that being said, to those military veterans who are currently at the Connecticut General Assembly right now, including my fellow veterans from Stamford, Connecticut, I would like to wish all those military veterans a very happy Veterans Day for this coming Saturday, November 11th. And I thank you all for your service as you fought to protect us, as you fought overseas and abroad for these past few years. The reason why, and also with that being said, as a volunteer representative of the Stamford Veterans Resource Center, I have prior experience as a community volunteer for the Toys for Tots program, in which I started last year as I was dedicated to helping hundreds of families and kids to receive gifts for the Christmas season, as I was very dedicated into helping Stamford thrive. And I was also a member of the U.S. Army JROTC program during my high school years at Westhill High School from 2011 to 2015. And I am also a relative of many relatives of both sides of my family who served in every branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, which includes the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and the Air Force as well. The reason why I want to be sharing with all of you my remarks and thoughts about for the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee is because as a volunteer representative of the Stamford Veterans Resource Center, I have been very dedicated into helping many of those military veterans and their families to receive the kind of care that they needed in order to provide them for themselves, in order to close healthcare, housing, and other related issues. As I have had the honor to be sitting at a desk with a phone, a printer, and computer, as well as someone who is very dedicated into helping those military veterans who are willing to get the kind of help that they needed right after they have served in every capacity of the U.S. Armed Forces as they fought overseas and abroad on land, sea, air, and space. And I just wanted to share my remarks to every state rep and state senator of the Connecticut General Assembly about creating more veterans resource centers in every city and town of Fairfield County, Connecticut, as well as many other cities and towns and many various counties of the state of Connecticut. So that's those veterans resource centers must be the kind of places where any veteran who lives in any city or town of Connecticut who wants to get the kind of help that they need, they must be ready to make a suggestion about how they want to live their lives in a positive, safe, and caring way without having any all those veterans to live and probably struggle, commit suicide, or thinking that their lives are not as possible because of what they experience while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. I am Kieran Edmondson. Again, I am proud to be serving as a volunteer representative of the Stanford Veterans Resource Center, and I would like to express my thanks to those to my fellow veterans: Tom Patterson, Tom Finn, Alan Gerard, Willie Houston, Cesar Carde, Winton Hill, and many other various volunteers who are dedicated into helping those military veterans who are in need. And with that being said, I am finished doing my testimony remarks, and I will be proud to take any questions that any of you guys may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, very much. And we wish you and your everybody in your family a happy Veterans Day as well. Is there any questions? Yep. Vice Chair Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kieran, thank you for your testimony today, and thank you for all the work that you do down in Stanford for our veterans community at the Resource Center. Our community is very well served by your work. Thank you, sir.
No, Papa, Hubert, it's good to see you again, and I really appreciate the fact that me and you always attend our Zoom meetings for the Patriotic Special Events Commission from every Tuesday and Thursday from last month prior to the Veterans Day Parade ceremony, and it is always good to see so many of you who care about veterans, and I look forward to be helping more military veterans in the future as well, as long as I have the energy and capacity into doing so. So no man or woman, so no man or woman who served in any branch of the armed forces must be left behind, and we must take good care of them.
Roger that. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Next we have Zach Edwards, I believe in person. Is Zach here? Okay, come on up.
Please use your microphone button before you start so they can hear you online right there.
Okay. I apologize. Could you tell me could you tell us the status of 642, please?
Is that the Veterans Grave Working Group?
Right, that's correct.
Yes, we're just waiting for one more appointment. I looked that up this morning. And we're just waiting for one more appointment.
Okay, and do you think, because it's about 3 months behind schedule, and the session's going to start in February, I believe. Is there going to be enough time?
I'm going to hand that over to Chair Nolan and Vice Chair Delaney, because I think we're waiting for the House appointment.
Yeah, there's been a lot of phone tag dilemma going on, so we're just waiting for that connection to happen. We're hoping that before the end of the week that will be done, and I know this has been repetitive for some of those positions, but unfortunately schedules keep clashing, and we hope for that to be a solution on that this week.
Sure. Thank you very much. And the question I have too is, per the legislation, it's due on January 1st. Is that going to be achieved?
What we would do is we would have to extend it to give them enough time to work on it, and hopefully get some return information from them.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. And there's one more thing to bring to your attention, and it came from 2 state departments. There are perpetual care contracts, and besides the 2 state departments, it came from 2 attorneys too. It states that the perpetual care contracts has some cemeteries that were destroyed, possibly deliberately, and the state departments told me that they want to help, but they can't because they need your help. I just want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. What two state departments were they, sir?
DCP and DPH.
Okay, and that should be addressed in the working group as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I will note that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize to bring that up.
Yeah,
but,
thank you.
Two attorneys told me to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I apologize. There are some spelling mistakes here. I was doing it this morning. It's my fault.
Yeah, don't worry about spelling mistakes. Thank you so much. Yep, Chair Nolan, please.
Ed, I want to just thank you for your staunch support in regards to Senator Cohen's bill. Your constant connection with us was necessary, and I do appreciate it. And I look forward to continuing to build a greater relationship and making sure that happens sooner than later.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. And thank you for your patience too.
Thank you, Senator.
And,
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
I think we're good. All right, thank you, sir. Next we have Pat Erickson, military family. She online?
Yes, Madam Chair, Pat is online.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Pat. We can hear you. We can't see you, but that's up to you.
You're not missing a lot.
Okay, that's all right.
Good afternoon. I am the wife of a 41-year Navy veteran. He served submarine service. And when he was a commander, I started to get involved with different people in the unit that had problems and needed help with research and veterans things. I'm reaching out to you today regarding the community care program. As you know, it was instituted a while back. I think it's been basically a complete failure. I'm going to share with you about a couple of veterans that I know that reached out for community care and were denied. One veteran that I know of had an infection in his leg. He took a knife and he heated it up with a flame and tried to cut the infection out of his leg. He also made a large cut in his hand at one point and tried to close it with crazy glue. He has glued teeth in his mouth. Another gentleman was going back and forth to the VA in West Haven with a infected toe. And it turned out that he ended up with all of the problems from it. He died from it. And these people are in New Milford, we're in Senator Buckby's area. And as he told you, there's not a lot of information for the veterans in our area. There's not a lot of service for our veterans in our area. The Danbury VA is much, much too small. When you go there to see a doctor, there's somebody making actual appointments in the same room as you with the doctor, which violates HIPAA regulations. It needs to be much bigger. And there's people in our community that have tried to get community care that have been turned down, whereas there's people that live 2 or 3 miles closer to West Haven that have been accepted. And I don't understand the logic of that. And I'm hoping somebody can do something to start to do something for the residents of New Milford, the veterans in New Milford, to be allowed to be able to use community care.
Thank you, Mrs. Erickson. Yep, Vice Chair Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Erickson, thank you for being here with us today. My question is about caring community. By caring community, are you referring to the VA practice of allowing veterans in the VA healthcare system to seek healthcare and specialty clinics outside the VA system if they are within a certain mile distance from the VA hospital?
Yes, sir.
VA hospital?
They go by the way the crow flies, not by the way you drive. And why is it that a veteran that lives within a couple of miles shorter distance is accepted and a veteran that is farther away isn't accepted. If you to ask a veteran who is ill to drive an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours to go get care, when you have doctors right in your own town that are accepted by the VA, doesn't make sense to me.
Well, thank you, ma'am. That, to my knowledge, is a federal program. But I can attest to having some issues or having seen some issues with the care and community program at a local level. So thank you for your testimony here today.
Okay, and I would also like to add that I do believe that it'd be wonderful if you do something with the property exemptions for our veterans.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a nice day.
Roger that. And thank you for your attendance, ma'am.
Rep. Bugby?
Thank you to the chairs. And Pat, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Pat.
Is that Bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Bill.
Thanks for I can't be as formal when it's people you were spending time with last night. And
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather, tired.
I'm sure you are. Thank you for waiting today to make this. As for those who don't know Pat or the commander, these are people who are very, very active within our community, and we really appreciate all their advocacy on a regular basis. There's not a time I don't bump into them at any function in town where there's not an idea brought, a concept brought, or a statement to be made. So I truly appreciate every piece of that. The fact that you're here with us today, even without your camera on. I wish you'd have it on so everybody could see your smiling face. But
yeah, I couldn't even remember how to turn it on, Bill. I haven't done a Zoom in 2 years since COVID.
Understood. Not a problem, Pat. I think the point that we mentioned this earlier a little bit about Danbury too. That when I was in there, they did mention they were about a third of the size they need to be in order to do what they can. And I think that's something that Pat brings up as well, again, in the trips to West Haven or to Danbury, even with New Milford being the largest town in the state. As I advocate for the best town in the USA on a regular basis, we are over 60 square miles of community and a very strong veterans program that happens within there, but the services just aren't close enough, and we have trouble getting our veterans to those locations. So I would almost like to take this opportunity with Pat to bring it to the rest of the committee too, to say maybe we should take a trip to Danbury and take a look at that, and to see what we can do with helping them out and getting them more space. It is very cramped quarters, and when I did speak with the doctor there, he said that they are about a third of the size they need to be for that.
That's exactly what they said to us.
Lisa,
they're in little closets.
They are little closets. It's a lot of little space. And when you have large people, because the Buckby family is certainly large, when you have large people going in the room, it takes up a lot of space.
You're not large anymore, Bill. Look, I know you're Santa Claus, and I want you to come to my house this year.
Well, we'll get you on the nice list first, but I don't want to get distracted from the rest of this.
You're getting distracted.
But I certainly would love to keep you informed on that. If we can get the committee to possibly talk about a field trip for the committee to go out and take a look at the smaller facilities like Danbury that need more space to better serve the community, I think that'd be critical. So Pat, thank you again for all that.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for being
I hope
yourself.
your dad does well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Rep.
night.
So, Mrs. Erickson,
Yes.
there are quite a few federal delegation representatives here in the audience. And I believe, Vice Chair Delaney has a number for you. And this is federal, but on behalf of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, we could draft a letter in support of Danbury. I will say that in Eastern Connecticut and New London, where I am from, our VA center did get expanded. It's absolutely beautiful. And we are, as a visiting nurse, I know how many veterans they are serving and how much easier it has gotten that they can go there. So I think every veteran in Connecticut deserves what we have in New London. So
Thank you so
Vice Chair
much.
Delaney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Erickson, we have the information for you for Mr. Claude S. Campbell, the Senior Veterans Affairs Advisor and Service Outreach Liaison for Senator Chris Murphy. And if you're ready, we're going to give you his contact information right now.
Yes, I am.
His email is going to be Claude, CLAUDE _ Campbell, CAMPBELL at Murphy, MURPHY .senate, SENATE.gov. And the number attached to that is going to be 860-549-8463.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your time. And I really would love to see the Danbury VA be able to be expanded for our veterans.
And thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your advocacy and thank you for speaking to us here today.
And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you so much. Have a nice holiday.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next we have William Simpson. Is he remote? Clerk?
I'm not seeing him here, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay. You know what? We're gonna skip a little ahead and go to number 19, Peter DePaola, Connecticut Veterans Day Race and Coventry Veterans Commission, Director and Chairperson in person. Hi, did I say everything right?
I think you covered everything very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, to the honorable chairs and the honorable members, thank you for having this meeting. And whoever said we should do this each and every year, I would support that. There's a lot of things that are going on. So let me see if I can take a half-hour discussion and condense it to 3 minutes or less. First of all, I just want to talk about the one thing I want to focus on is the differences between our current veterans, the post 9/11 veterans, to previous eras. I'm a Marine veteran. 2 of my sons are current era veterans. My wife is a veteran as well, served during Desert Storm. And a couple of things that we've seen in the different generations, and as I've done some research and looked at it, there's a distinct difference between prior generations, especially if you go back and consider the World War II and then even from World War II into, the current millennium. You can see that the families were tight-knit, communities were solid. There wasn't quite as much division as we have today. So our current generation of veterans have grown up into a very different culture and society. And they don't have the same type of family infrastructure that we older folks had. One of the things that I see as I've been involved in a number of veteran activities, whether I've been on hikes, I won't tell you some of the things we hiked in Norwich. If you're from Norwich, we did a Silkies hike. We did a hike for veteran suicide. I've been on numerous runs and other activities, and I'm actively involved in Backpacks for Life for homeless veterans. In all these different activities, when I speak to veterans and talk to them, there's some common threads. Part of this is because I have a son who fits in the common thread of, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to go to the VA. I don't want to get involved. They basically feel like that's for the older guys, not them. But God bless them all. They did what we did as veterans. They raised their hand and they served. And we still have people that are very patriotic, believe in serving, and they love this country and they love serving, whatever that capacity may be. This generation has seen some differences from prior generations, and that is they've been on more deployments. And pertaining to the state, we see that for the first time since probably the Korean War, the National Guards across the country have been very active in rotations and providing vital support in a variety of functions in the current war on terror. So we have people who probably started signing up for the National Guard, Army Guard, Air Force Guard, whatever. But when they first signed up, it was, I'm going to serve, but I'm going to be home. And the deployments by a lot of these folks went from 1 year or more. And many of them did 2 and 3 deployments. I have one son that did 3 deployments, another one did 2. One is out, one's still in. And in speaking to my son who is out, he's now a veteran. it's difficult to get him to go down to the VA and register. Finally did it. It took 5 years, finally did it. But he's busy. He's a soccer dad. He's active in his community. He's raising his family and he's working very hard. So he has all those challenges around him. The other thing that I find from talking to the current era veterans is those that went into the combat zone, it's not like the olden days where here's the front line. If you're in the back, you're pretty safe. Today's veterans, if they were deployed, the battlefield was all around them. It didn't end. There was no quiet time. They had multiple issues to deal with in terms of IEDs, incoming, even in safe zones. So if you were deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, you had no safe zone. Really, every place in those two countries was a combat zone. So one of the things that I've also seen, and especially in the last couple of months when I've been involved with some veterans who are trying to work their way back and be, more fully involved in their lives and communities, is the issue of PTSD. And it was brought up a little bit earlier, and I commend that conversation. And I hope that people will go back and look at that again. PTSD does run a spectrum, but we still have people who, from the deployments, from being in there, have a difficult time dealing with that stress. Hearing the buzzer, I guess my time is up, so I will summarize with the last couple of points here. The two things I would, like the committee to take, number one is the municipal veteran representatives. I will admit I'm biased. I think talking to a veteran, seeing a veteran in front of you, they get what you're about. I know there's a lot of civilians that do it, and they do a commendable job, but it's one less bridge you have to cross as a veteran trying to connect with someone who's not a veteran, whether you served in peacetime or not. So I would say, with the municipal representatives, to be a veteran, but we also need to let that information get out to the public, loud, extra communication that people need to know who they are and where to get to them. The second thing is, in terms of our state, if you go back and look even 10 years ago, you'll see that we had over 200,000 veterans in our state. We're now down, and I've heard two numbers just in the last 2 days, somewhere between 175 and 177,000 veterans. So our veterans are passing away due to age, but they're also moving out. So we need to help make a veteran-friendly environment so they stay in Connecticut. So whatever you can do that will make it more enticing to stay in Connecticut, I think that's very beneficial. And I think something along the lines of a loud, patriotic promotion of veterans, active duty guard, active duty military, so they know that Connecticut is a very, very friendly place for veterans and for those who serve. It'll do two things. One, it'll help the veterans stay. And number two, I think it'd be very beneficial for the next generation that want to serve our country to look and say, this is a good thing to do. And when I do get out, I'll be welcome to stay. So I know my time is up, so I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Yep, Senator Gordon.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Peter. And I just want a big shout out to Jamie and you for all the work that you do, especially locally, just not in Coventry. And I'm proud to represent that town, but all over. So I appreciate that. And also a big shout out to the Coventry High School National Honor Society. I believe they put together 50 backpacks or so for that program recently during the Veterans Day race. So that's quite an accomplishment on their part. I know we've talked previously about resources and trying to leverage technology sort of for a one-shop stopping type of venue, how veterans or veterans' families might be able to easier or better access what resources might be available and how to actually go about applying for resources. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to expand upon about what your thoughts might be or what you might see other states that have been doing work using the technology that's available nowadays to help veterans and their families.
Yes, thank you, Senator Gordon, and I appreciate that. We do stay busy, and it's always an honor and a privilege to work with veterans and help raise the awareness in communities of the work that veterans are doing out there. Regarding the technology, I have looked at some of the other options that states use. Different states have different ideas on how to reach their veterans. Obviously, a lot of them are larger than our state, so they have a more robust financial backing to enable that to happen. I have started to see a number of improvements happen on the technology side within the state. That's a good thing. I think we need to promote the app so veterans see that there is an app that they can use. And I haven't tried it yet myself, but if it can be a 1 or 2 step to get to what they need, that'll be beneficial. I know also the state website, they're working on that. It's under construction to make that easier to use and make it more veteran friendly. So I think those are things that would help tremendously. But thank you for the question.
And thank you. And thank you for being here in person and giving us this info.
Thank you, sir. And Representative Delaney, thank you for your service, and any other veterans on the committee. Thank you for serving. Appreciate what you do as well. And thank you for the hearing.
Thank you for your service, sir. Cool.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Next, we have William Simpson wasn't on remote, right? Okay. And next we have Stefana Pecker, MD.
Yes, Madam Chair, Stefana is actually on the phone, so she should be able to speak. She has the ability to talk, so maybe when she's ready, she'll join us. She's using a phone, so I don't know how that works with the Zoom.
You want me to go the next?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you, Doctor. Please go right ahead.
Oh, very good. I'm sorry about that cluster on my phone here. Thank you very much for having me, and it's an honor and a privilege to work with veterans. Thank all of you for your service, first off. I just wanted to make you aware of a few things that we've been doing up here in North Stonington, which is on the border with Rhode Island. I've been a country doctor, family doctor here in this area for over 15 years, taking care of many, many veterans over the years. And it's actually staggering to see the amount of veterans in such a tiny 2 states that we serve. There's so many. And as time went on, we saw the need for holistic services, non-pharmaceutical strategies to help with some of the things we see after being deployed, like obvious things, PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, other injuries, all kinds of things like this. So we developed a nonprofit called Better Together CT Inc., and that is located on the farm across from our medical practice and wellness center. So we provide free services to veterans and their families. We do things with therapeutic mini horses, chickens, also farming organically, regeneratively, sustainably on the farm. We also work with Yukon students, and there's some veterans in that group as well. But we also provide free services such as hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy, floating float pod sensory deprivation chamber, halotherapy, infrared sauna, Reiki massage, things like this that incredibly enough have been started to be covered by insurance companies because they've proved to be so helpful for these conditions that are difficult to treat. I just wanted everyone to be aware, and if people would like to reach out to me so that we can bridge the gap a little bit in both of these states, I'm willing to be of help. We're also getting certified to do ratings for disability for veterans. So that's something that should be done in the next week or so. So I just wanted people to be aware that this was available.
Thank you, Dr. Petcher. Rep. Nolan and I are from New London, so we're right down 95 from you. So maybe we'll do a field trip
Excellent.
one day. If you could, we're going to
Oh, that
ask.
would be marvelous.
Yeah, we're going to ask our clerk to reach out to you to get some information from you. But I believe Rep. Lanu, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Doctor. How are you?
Good, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your testimony, and you're also in my backyard, as you're right on my district line. And when you mention agriculture and farming, you're really describing, our area of the woods, our area of the Connecticut, and just what agriculture brings so much soothing. It
Yes.
really is medicinal in so many different ways. So I commend you for what you're trying to do. Has there been any studies? Have you guys been able to quantify in any way where these holistic non-pharmaceutical treatments have replaced the pharmaceutical method?
Well, I can't say that it replaces it, but in some cases it helps to satisfy quality of life issues that are not satisfied otherwise. And what we've also found is that it is these treatments like the hyperbaric oxygen actually help people with addiction to stick to their protocols. There's some kind of healing quality to the brain. So it's actually useful for many different things, including long COVID. And it's being covered for that by some insurances. So, of course, you can't completely eliminate pharmaceuticals, but what we see more and more is that some of these poor veterans just have like giant bags full of pills that they stopped taking because nothing was helping. And they're at an impasse. And so if we could do something for them that's healthy, that isn't going to cause some new problem, and it's pleasant and easy, that's the fun part. So it's super helpful, and there are studies, yes, and more as we go along, and as we work with UConn, I will be doing more studies. I'm currently lecturing there as a hemp farmer, organic, regenerative, sustainable, next week. So we work pretty closely with them, and we'll be integrating the holistic stuff as well.
What would you say? What's the biggest problem that you've discovered that you've had the most success with helping veterans? What's the biggest medical issue, psychological issue that you've encountered, and what treatment do you specifically use that you think is most successful for that biggest problem that you have?
So it's usually isolation is the biggest disease that I have noticed. So mental isolation, or during COVID, everybody suffered from isolation, the general population. But in veterans, it was more pronounced, and they live it every day, many of them. So what I think really helps them the most, and even this is young or old, it doesn't matter, it's a sense of community. So when they find a place where they're welcome and safe, and, just they're not a number, and they can just kind of do their own thing and nobody's bothering them, it's kind of defined to the person's level of ability, because some veterans can't do much at all, so you have to tailor these programs. But the biggest problem I found was isolation and the mental part of feeling like when they were in war, the way they describe it to me, or overseas, they were like the god, and they were in charge and large and in charge. And then they come back and everything's different, and they have a hard time fitting into a 9-to-5 where they might have a boss that isn't a very good boss or something, So it's kind of like a mental thing, but then the physical complaints are horrible, like the burn pit symptoms. I have people with lung cancers that are popping up, young people that were exposed to those burn pits. And we've actually been able to reverse some of these cancers with the help of oncologists and the hyperbaric chamber, So it seems to be helpful in many different directions. Is there one cookie cutter thing that all veterans have? Not all maybe, but most probably have PTSD.
Is there some sort of initial assessment that you conduct when you take in a new veteran that tailors the treatment specifically to them?
Well, I do it like a traditional doctor who happens to be holistic, everything by the book. I think things are going to teach me about, because there's stuff as a civilian, I don't know all that stuff, so I have to learn it. So if you have any guidance for me, I'm happy to take it.
Well, Doctor, I very much appreciate your answers, and I would like to also raise my hand with Chairwoman Marks, Senator Marks, and I'd love to be part of that field trip to check out what
Yay! Yay! I can't wait to meet you.
Likewise, I'm very intrigued, and I will with great excitement await that invitation. Thank you, again, Doctor, for your testimony, and
thank you,
Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Doctor, I'm just going to say, I did meet when I was at Camp Net. There is a veterans farming group, and I lost the business card like I always do, but I'm going to find that. So I don't know if you're part of that whole group, and that's another field trip I want to go on.
I'd love to see it with you as well.
Yeah. So we appreciate you, and you'll be hearing from us, and thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you all very much. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye. Next we have Alice Rick here. Somebody help me. Riccardoni.
Yes, Alex is online and joining right now.
Good afternoon. Can you see me?
Yes, we see you when we hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a special thank you to Representative Poulos, who represents me in the town of Sulington and asked me to come speak today. I am on the Veterans Committee in the town of Sulington. We are the Veterans Service Office. We're run fully by volunteers. I'm also the town attorney for the town of Sulington and represent the town in all of its aspects. I've got a very quick testimony. It's almost a technical testimony, unlike most of the other people who talked about a lot of really important pressing issues. This one happens to do with the CMERS statutes. And CMERS, as you may or may not know, is the state of Connecticut's created but municipal government funded pension programs from the state. And the way CMERS works is, if you're in the military, you are allowed to, quote unquote, buy back your prior military time for service in the military that you weren't employed with a municipality. The issue with the way that those statutes written is you're only able to buy back time if that time was 90 days or more and you were issued a DD 214. The statute specifically references National Guard and the reserves. In this Federal Department of Defense, actually, I'm going to quote it, defines active duty as full-time duty in the active service of the uniformed service, including full-time training duty, annual training duty, full-time National Guard duty, in attendance while in the active service at a school designated as a military service school by law or the secretary thereof. So Connecticut doesn't count active service the same way as the federal government does for purposes of being allowed to count that service towards your military pension. It doesn't cost the government any money to change the law because the service member actually pays to buy that service. So there's no cost to municipality or the state, but it's just a technicality at this point. And I'm just hoping somebody can possibly look into possibly changing it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd ask that you send us email. Oh, Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I believe that this was an issue that we dealt with a number of years ago on the state side, not on the CMERS side, but on the state retirement side. So I think that if we step back and look at what we did, this was even before I was a legislator. Um, and I think that we could model it after what we did back then. So, Alex, I think that the chair wants you to email on that issue, but I think that that's something that we can address relative to the same way we did it back under the SURS system. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Senator.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like something that can happen. So if you just, email Rep. Nolan or myself, Senator Marks, one of us, just get something, or Senator Austin, get something to one of us, and we can, work on that this session.
I appreciate that very much.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Rep. Poulos?
Thank you, Attorney Ricardone, for joining us today. I just a technical question for your technical testimony. Based on the way this law was written, how many years of credit do you lose in your pension?
So in my personal situation, I'm in the National Guard. I deployed 2 years ago to Joint Force TAP Guantanamo Bay, and that was 9 months. So I was able to buy back 9 months. But all in all, I've been in for almost 10 years, for 2 months at a time, 2.5 months at a time, out of the country, in the country. And that was over 2.5 years of time that I was unable to get credit for.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Yep, bye-bye. Next, we have James Lalime, retired educator, remotely.
I am not seeing James, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have Stephen Pintarek.
Yes, Stephen is online.
Pintarek, I'm not sure how.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead, sir. We hear you.
Yeah. Good day, Veterans Committee members. My name is Steve Penneridge from Southington. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, having served from 1975 to 1995, retiring as a Sergeant First Class. I'm currently helping Southington veterans through the town committee. I'd first like to thank the committee for considering raising the amount of personal property tax for veterans. It's very important. Second, I'd like to read a statement that I have at the bottom of my emails. It's called the definition of a veteran. A veteran, whether active duty, retired, or National Guard or Reserve, is someone who at one point in his or her life wrote a blank check payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including my life. That is honor. And there are way too many people in this country who no longer understand it. The author is unknown. When we joined the military, we did not have a choice of what wars were going on or where we were going to be assigned to, a war zone or a peacetime. So what I'm asking is that you consider changing the dates of eligibility that Connecticut uses to award benefits. I did some research, and Congress has changed the dates for veterans to join the American Legion, a wartime service organization, in July of 2019. They changed the eligibility so all veterans who have served since 1941 can join the American Legion. President Trump signed a bill on July 30th of that year that declares the United States has been in a state of war since December 7th, 1941. So I asked that Connecticut change the dates of eligibility to December 7th, 1941. Now, if Connecticut eligibility criteria changes, you'd go from 7 war eras to 2. The first one, I don't think there's anybody still alive, and that's from April 6th, 1917 to November 11th, 1918. And then December 7th, 1941 to a time later determined by the federal government. This will let all Cold War veterans be eligible for state benefits. These veterans all wrote that blank check to the United States. Thank you for your time to address this, and I hope you will give my request consideration as my fellow veterans deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And you are the second person today that has talked about the Cold War veterans. So we appreciate it, and it's something we will look into. Anybody have anything else they'd like to say? Okay, Rep. Poulos?
Thank you, Mr. Pindrack, for your testimony. Thank you for your research and laying that out for us today. And thank you for your advocacy of Southington veterans and veterans everywhere. We appreciate you and we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Sherry Marquis, Summers Department of Veterans Affairs Deputy Director. No, in person? No?
I
Okay.
don't have them online, Madam Chair, so.
Okay, all right. And now Chair Nolan's taken over.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we're going to go right to number 21, John Monette from the American Legion Post 195 in Watertown.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, John is online. He is joining the Zoom.
How you doing, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, the committee, chair people and members. I come before you as a veteran. A little background, I served active duty in the United States Air Force from July 1988 to July 1992. This past spring, I took a class at the University of Connecticut about the legislative process. And the project for the class, each of us was to come up with a piece of legislation that we would like to see enacted. I chose for my project to propose a vehicle registration plate that honors the Cold War veterans. From September the 2nd, 1945 to December 26th, 1991, we were not officially in a period of war, but we were as close to it as we could have been. And veterans that served between those time periods who didn't necessarily get deployed to a combat zone, the state has no way currently of recognizing their Cold War service. And I would like to propose that a Cold War vehicle registration plate be created and made available to anybody that served honorably between the periods of September 2nd, 1945 and December 26th, 1991.
Thank you, Mr. Monet, and thanks for reaching out. I know you met with my legislative aide, Nikki Neifelt.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Yeah, she's great. It sounds like a good classroom activity, any project. Anybody have anything to say? All right, we hear you loud and clear, and I'll be reaching back out to you, okay?
Thank you, ma'am. One last thing, I brought this before my American Legion post and the Veterans Council for Oakville, Watertown, of which I am now the chairman, and we have the full backing of both of those organizations.
Okay, and also to reach out to your state rep and state senator would be the next wise thing to do.
Yes, ma'am, I will do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker would be Heidi Cornell. I'm sorry, did I skip someone? All right, we'll go back. Go ahead, we'll go back.
Good afternoon, members of the Veterans Affairs Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name's Heidi Cornell. I have testified before you in previous years on this same topic, so you may remember. I'm a 23-year veteran of the United States Air Force. I was raised here in Connecticut and returned to my home state after retiring from the Air Force several years ago. I come here today to request your consideration for exempting 100% disabled veterans from property taxes. It seems that this is a bill that has been raised in previous years. I've testified about it before, and it never gets passed, but I think we really need to keep trying. I know we provide educational benefits. Senator Austin, you brought that up last year when I spoke on this, and I'm currently taking advantage of those. I think it's great. But our 100% disabled veterans aren't likely to be taking advantage of getting a new degree at this point. A 100% disability rating means that your disabilities interfere at the same percentage as for your ability to work. So these are veterans who sacrificed the most, and due to their service-connected disabilities, they probably cannot work and earn an income to afford the property taxes that we see here in Connecticut. You've also heard this from me before, but Connecticut is still, I think, behind most states when it comes to property tax exemptions for their veterans. 39 states give significantly greater tax exemptions. It kind of varies among the states. And currently now up to 21 states are fully exempting their 100% disabled veterans from property taxes. So Connecticut has one of the lowest veteran populations in the country, also one of the highest property tax rates in the country. What I'm talking about, and really I just wanted to keep this down to the 100% disabled veterans to begin with, because I feel like it's kind of hard to push the whole thing at once. I would like to increase benefits for everyone, but what I'm talking about is just 1/10% of the population here in Connecticut. And meanwhile, while property taxes have been continuing to rise, our laws have remained the same for decades, as far as I can tell. The law currently allows for a 100% disabled veteran to receive a $3,000 deduction off of their property's assessed value, which at the average Connecticut mill rate equates to about $100 a year. And I don't feel like that's enough. So I'm requesting your support for this small group of men and women who have sacrificed so much. I think it's a small price for Connecticut, but an extremely meaningful one to veterans who, with such exemptions, I think would be able to stay in their homes and might not otherwise be able to. I thank you for your time, consideration, and your service to our state and veterans.
Thank you so much for coming before us. Your statement in regards to the taxes and how little it is something that we have been discussing a great deal recently. Something Senator Olson has been working on for years, that just is not able to get over that cliff. We're hoping with the change of dynamics of the committee that, this is something we may be able to do this year.
I do want to say also that last year, I looked over that fiscal analysis they did. I think it was really very overestimated. So yeah, I don't know. I'd maybe like to address that at some point, but.
Well, thank you for that, Senator Marks.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you for coming again and testifying. So I have asked OLR to do a report. She reached out to every municipality, trying to find out how many 100% disabled vets they have, what each municipality is currently offering, because some do give more tax exemption than others do. And then this did pass out of veterans last year, and then it died in finance. So I'm hoping that after we get this information, that then we are able to have a public hearing with the veterans, with planning and development, and with finance, because it's the cognizance of all three committees that we can really all sit and listen to the same testimony and be able to make a coordinated, good decision, because it's definitely what we hear from the vets the most. If you go to a coffee house, it's what you're going to hear. I just need to have a little bit of data in front of me. I think we need to be data driven, and that's what I have asked OLR to do. And I'm hoping that we can move on with this in a very, detailed way to see how it will affect municipalities, but also to see how the vets really do need it. So I appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Representative Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did some of that. I look forward to that research. I would be more apt to support this, or probably support it 100% if the state was to fund that and reimburse the towns for that lost revenue that they have, because we already have a lot of mandates here across the board, but even in veterans. In my hometown of Stafford, I went to the assessor's office and I had her run the numbers for what our net revenue loss is for the tax exemptions that we already have for veterans, which was $182,000, and we are reimbursed $21,000 by the state. So already at a net loss of revenue in my hometown of 160 some odd $1,000. So it's significant, and that's just in a small town of 11,500 people. I think my town does a little bit more than some of the other towns, so that could be skewed. But I think we need to talk about funding, and the state, we have a little bit more money in our coffers than some of the local towns do. So I would be on board with this if the state were to, reimburse the towns for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Olson.
Thank you. So, relative to the data of this, I've been working all summer on the issues relative to 100% permanently and totally disabled veterans. Most municipalities don't separate that out on their tax rolls.
Right.
They only have it down as a certain percentage.
Right.
And it's not all of the all municipalities have it separated out by the exact percentage. And so most recently, the numbers that came back from the federal government, which is the one that gives us the rating, for 100% permanently and totally disabled veteran, different than just 100%, which may go up and down, but 100% permanently and totally disabled is less than 1,200 in the whole state.
That makes sense.
And so that is something that looking at that. So if we're starting at any of the tax exemptions, I think that starting with that 100% permanently and totally disabled veteran, and then going town by town, we've started researching town by town. If we know that you have 100% permanently and totally disabled, we're calling nursing homes. How many veterans are in your nursing home that's in this particular town? And say that person is 100% permanently and totally disabled. They are by the federal government assigned to that town because that's where they live. But they're not getting charged any taxes.
Right.
And so the real number on taxation relative to 100% permanently and totally disabled, that definition right there is something that we can quantify and is not that expensive. So, and I appreciate everybody's comments on this, but I do think that, and I understand that municipalities are under a lot of pressure. But this is 100% permanently and totally disabled as a result of your service, not because Kathy Austin got into an accident one day and she's disabled. No, this is somebody who wrote that check, was damaged as a result of their service, and I think that there should be skin in the game from every governmental section. So, at the end of the day, it's really not as expensive as what people have said. And probably by mid-December, we'll have the exact dollar amount that it would be.
Okay, great.
And it's really not that much. And now, I think then we should look at different tiers. There's something that I think that in today's world, where we have less than 1% of the population that's taking advantage of military service, we have to look at ways to boost up our military service. And what does that military service do for us? Well, that military service is currently serving in the seas off of Israel and Gaza, and that military service is off the seas of Ukraine. And we live in a country and a world that is increasingly putting a number of pressures on our military men and women, in particular because those that are in the National Guard or the reservists are being called up at unprecedented levels, And that doesn't take into account what's happening in Taiwan. So, I mean, I think that, I guess I look at this in somewhat a different way, that when people are talking about the tax dollars, if we can keep a 100% permanently and totally disabled veteran in their home because we're helping them out with the tax exemption, I think that we actually owe it to them. And you know, I've looked at a number of tax exemptions that are for veterans. I could talk chapter and verse on the research that I've already done on this and the data that's out there. But I think that looking at this is what we should be doing. And I think some states have already done it, but every state should do it. We have an obligation, just a straight out obligation. So, you know, so I'm appreciative of people coming up and testifying, and I think there's a lot of great ideas. But any person who served our country and didn't know what was going to happen at the end of that day now knows what it is. And I guess it's just somewhat personal to me. I really think it's personal, and so I think that that's something that we actually have to do. We just have to get it done. So again, I thank you for coming and appreciate your comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gordon.
I won't speak for long. I just want to thank you for coming. Certainly, in my 13 towns I represent, I'm well aware of a lot of veterans, including those who unfortunately are near or at 100% disability. Some of them I actually do take care of as a doctor. And I look forward to learning more about what each town is able or not able to do. But as we've heard, certainly as a way to make certain we're looking after our veterans after their service, especially those, as you mentioned, who have suffered 100% disability. Certainly look to see what ways then the state might be able to provide that support to the towns. If indeed the number is small or financially it's not big, then the state of Connecticut would seem to be able to do that and use that as a way to help keep the veterans, not just in this state, but in the communities that they want to live in. So I look forward to seeing more about this data. I've been learning more from my own town, some of these drilling down to these specific details, the exact number of veterans that might fall into this category, the dollar amounts. So I look forward to seeing what this committee and other committees do wrestling with the issue. But I would want to make a point that at the end of the day, I think this would be something then that if we feel very strongly about from a policy point of view, and I very much do want to see what I can do to support veterans, then certainly what the state is able to provide to fund that. And I look forward to seeing those numbers. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate all of you doing this research. It's great. And having this today, this is really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you also. And I just, from the day I took over being co-chair, this was a goal. And, it's something that, I don't want to see tossed around with funding being just, simply the states or simply the municipalities. If push comes to shove, I would like to see both be responsible if need be, because this has gone on too long. To go back and forth on that specific issue with the low numbers that we're finding that we have for 100% PT. The disability is just, I just don't think that we need to just keep entertaining it. So I'm really looking forward to these numbers. And just to take note, not all of them have property.
Right, I would submit that probably fewer of them own property than the average
Correct.
rate in Connecticut.
So I think that's definitely something that, is going to have to be added to it. So, I'm just willing to try and make sure that we swiftly come to some agreement, whether or not it's individually the state's responsibility or the municipality's responsibility or both. We're gonna have to decide. Representative Vale.
Thank you. I ever wonder, how come we never hear about giving 100% disabled veterans 100% income tax break? I'd be all for that. Like, I don't understand why we're going after the property tax. It might be a little bit more substantial. So, maybe they don't, it doesn't apply to them, but, I was just curious.
Senator.
Because the most onerous tax that we have is property tax. That gets people to stay in their homes, and an income tax exemption often does nothing because they're not receiving a paycheck, because they're 100% permanently and totally disabled, which by its very definition means that they can't have a job. That's by its very definition. And so that's why we're not looking at income tax. We're looking at something to keep people in their homes where they have lived, make them comfortable, make sure that they have a number of things. But that's why we could do it, but it would be a meaningless number, because people that are 100% permanently and totally disabled can't work.
They don't have investments.
Most of them don't have investments because most of them couldn't work when they came back to get investments because they were hurt during their service.
And if it's such a small amount, I don't see why the state couldn't chip in. So that's something we need to discuss further.
And you and I, Representative Vale, have had this discussion, but we find it okay to give a $2,000 exemption off of property taxes for volunteer firefighters.
What's the difference? What does one have to do with the other?
All right,
It has nothing to do. You use that every time.
As the chair,
it makes no
can you
difference.
Stop for a minute, please. Thank you. All right, we're here for the veterans, not to go back between one another. All right, so please, let's listen to the veterans. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
We
sir.
appreciate you coming before us. Our next person is going to be Bethany Spencer.
Bethany is not online, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The next person will be Robert Wargo. Did I miss Sam Haynes?
Sam Haynes is also not online.
Okay, sorry about that. And Robert? No. Nikki Eberly?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Nikki is online. I'm adding them right now. Nikki is declining my request to be a panelist, so maybe move on if you would like.
And looks like Brian Cohen or Breen Cohen.
I do not see them online.
Okay. Kevin Burnell, Sons of American Legion.
He's not online either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thomas Finn. How are you, sir?
Are we on? I had a lot of notes, but I take pride in what's going on today. Our government is working. I take pride in the mission still going on. I can't, I can recall the soldier's creed. The mission will never end and no soldier ever left behind. And that's why we're here today. I want to shout out to all. Happy Veterans Day coming up. So, you know, I love the team. I love the fight. Why do we do what we do? Why do we do what we do? And it's for that service person that needs that help. And year after year, we're coming here. And I thank you. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you care. But we're here to help you as well. So always feel free to reach out to the veteran community to back you up in that fight. It's important. Last week, we had a Korean War couple come in homeless, and they're worried about the winter. And we're doing everything we can to find them a place. And Connecticut is a great state. I'm proud to be a resident of Connecticut. I brag about it all the time because many times we lead the way. So we sent this couple up to the facility in Bridgeport. They're from Greenwich, but they're still homeless. We sent them up to Bridgeport and the home of the brave. Said, well, we'll take the veteran. We can't take the veteran's wife. 85 years old. 85 years old. So then we sent them up to Newington and Rocky Hill, and they're too far away from their family. But to look at this couple, A, it breaks your heart, but B, it tells you to be the leader the leader that you need to be in order to make sure that good things happen, that we're not going to fail them. We're not going to fail these people. And we're going to keep on working. We're going to keep on banging on the doors of all our legislators to do the right thing. You know, I hear the arguments going back and forth, but it's the right thing. It's not the greedy thing. It's not, you know, I'm going to try to get the best out of what I can get. So I really do appreciate that. Like I said, many people already took my thunder, but today, I bottom line up front, bluff, bottom line up front. We have a lot of veterans say, why retire in Connecticut? Why retire in Connecticut? You're talking about losing tax dollars? Well, people are going to move out and you're going to lose them anyway. So why retire in Connecticut? And the Connecticut website does have a lot of reasons why to stay in Connecticut, but some of them are generic and not enough. So keep that in mind. This morning, yeah, we were a little late coming up Route 15 from Stanford. But before we came here, we made a stop at the local high school. And we got the same questions. Why join the military? If your state government, if your federal government can't take responsibility to that blank check, why would a 18-year-old man or woman want to join the military? They see what's going on. I'm a product of the Vietnam War. I was born, you know, I was around after the Vietnam War, and it wasn't a good sight. The morale of the country, the morale of the military, nobody wanted to join the military. And the day's coming when the military is going to be called up again and again and again. It's coming. We can't hide it. It's not like the environmental problems where we hide all the time. War is in our future. And we're going to have to rely on many people to step up. It's not going to be a draft, but many people are going to have to step up and lead that charge. But if we're not taking care of our veterans now, those younger generations are going to look and say, oh, hell no. Hell no. I'm not going to do this. So, but I know I'm preaching to the choir. I've talked to many of you. I love you all. I love the fact that we're here together to remind you and everybody that's not here that we're watching you, and we're going to be responsible to see if you have a future in our government. I'm not threatening. No. Please don't call the police. But it is a team thing. And like I said, I'm looking up at you guys. Thank you. Thank you for your push and your fight. And I want to remind you, we're here for you to make sure the right and responsible thing is done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming before us. I don't ever consider it as a threat. It's holding our feet to the fire.
Yeah, but you never know.
You know,
That's internet world.
well, there's always going to be an internet world that's going to do this. But the true job for us is to make sure that we do the best that we can for our veterans. Correct. So I thank you for coming for us. Representative Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you, Master Sergeant. I thank you for the work that you do for the Stanford Veterans Resource Center, and thank you for taking the trip up from Stanford to be here. The bottom line up front is that our community is lucky to have you and the service that you provide for us. So thank you for doing for Connecticut what you did during your service during the Army, which is to fight for your community. Cool.
Anyone else? Chris Cotu. Good afternoon. Thank you for hanging out.
Honorable committee members, thank you for all you do for our veterans. It's exciting to hear the passion. For me, I'm excited to hear how much you want to advocate for us. So thank you. And thank you to all the veterans in the audience. Appreciate all that have served and continue to serve. I'm honored to speak in front of this committee today as a former ranking member. I speak from the perspective of someone who has served in the armed forces for 29 years, led multiple veterans organizations, including American Warrior, which I founded, which sent 1,130 World War II veterans to our monument, Washington, D.C. And I've worked with thousands of veterans and currently work with many veterans today. Today, I come before you to underscore the significance of providing tuition assistance to the dependents of our National Guard members who stand ready to serve both domestically and abroad. These service members routinely put their lives on hold to respond to crises at a moment's notice. Their unique role supporting both federal and state missions and state emergencies places a distinct set of challenges on their families. The National Guard's recent engagements with within our nation's borders in response to environmental disasters, civil disturbances, health crises, including COVID, cybersecurity threats, and issues of border security highlight their indispensable role in our national defense and community resiliency. Here's why I'm extending tuition assistance to their dependents is paramount. Community strengthening. National Guard members are integral parts of their communities. They live in all of our communities. By investing in education in their children, we are investing in the future of these communities. Educated individuals are better equipped to contribute with local economy and to step up in times of need, just as their National Guard parents do. As you're all aware, we face a very challenging environment of recruiting, retention in the military, on active duty and in the Guard. We are competing with other states who will take soldiers, these essential people that we need during these crises and other incidents, domestic and abroad. Educational benefits for dependents are critical in attracting and retaining these citizen soldiers. As the Guard takes on increasing complex missions from cybersecurity, healthcare response, the need for skilled personnel grows. Benefits that extend to family members can be decisive in the Guard's decision to enlist or reenlist and stay in the military. 3, enhanced readiness. One thing about the Guard that many people don't understand is I have to be prepared 365 days a year. Physically, I have to work out. I have to be in shape so then I can accomplish the mission. Mentally, you have to be ready. Your family has to be ready. So sometimes it can be perceived that our Guardsmen are weekend warriors, which they are, but there's much more to that mission. It's a full-time obligation and commitment. We're all aware of the negative impact that financial stress induces on our society. A Guardsman worried about their family's financial security can be distracted from their duties. Tuition assistance for dependent directly contributes to the psychological readiness and focus of our troops when they are called to serve. In recognizing the evolving roles of National Guard, from flood zones, I remember as an elected official, we had floods in Norwich, Yannick River. The Guard was activated. Time and time again, we're activated for things like that. To the recent healthcare attacks at cyber, we can be activated for things like that also. It's a very important mission for our force and other states. Extending tuition assistance to our dependents is a critical step. It's a commitment to those who do not simply serve for a season, but who remain ready to answer at the call anytime. It is a strategic investment in the legacy of our readiness, resiliency, and unwavering dedication that defines our National Guard families. I respectfully urge the committee to consider these points with the respect they deserve and to act on our collective promise to support not only those who serve, but their loved ones as well. Thank you. And I greatly appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you, sir. Chairwoman Marks.
Yeah, thank you. I just think it was last week, I went to the Yukon Veterans Advisory Council up at Yukon. What an amazing program and so many things that they offer the veterans there, really helping them throughout the their college experience. And they too mentioned this, and I actually work with I'm a nurse, visiting nurse, and I work with a nurse who gets deployed all the time. I think he raises his hand a lot too, but which is great. I mean, it's great. And he comes back and we learn so much from him. So I just put a big star next to this, and we will do research, and please write to us, and so keep us, make sure we don't
We'll
forget.
follow up.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
form a coalition.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Rep. Delaney? Rep. Lindblom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, it's good to see you up here again. And I just want to say thank you for your service in the legislature, in the National Guard, and I think there's no secret in Eastern Connecticut. They know that Chris Cotu is constantly advocating for our veterans and those active service members. And I really just want to thank you for your lifetime of service, not only for what you're doing for our country, but what you're doing for other veterans and other particularly the World War II generation. That's such a one of the finest generations, and I think it was so important to make sure those vets got down to Washington, and that's my grandfather's generation. So it certainly resonates with me. It's home with me, and certainly it's very commendable to see that. I'm certainly very intrigued with what you have here. I think this is certainly a very laudable idea as far as tuition assistance for dependents of National Guards men and women and their children. I'm curious. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here. That's not my intention. But are you aware of any other states that have done this? And I guess my second part of the question is, if the answer is yes, are you aware of any data as far as the job performance and duty performance correlating to their dependents getting that type of assistance?
So there's give or take 15 states that do have this benefit. How I was alerted to it was Michigan has a program that they established. They just enhanced it threefold because they actually put a cap on spending, which is not a bad way to initiate this program to get it moving. Or it could be deployed with a cap, say some states have number of hours that student could attend tuition within state schools at no expense to them. So from what I know is about 15 states. I can follow up and send that information forward. And they all have varying different ways to implement this type of measure.
And I appreciate that. And I don't know if you're aware, is there any data as far as recruitment in those states and the success of recruitment and retention compared to other states that don't have it?
I honestly don't know the direct correlation because there's many factors, as in each state has different packages. You could make a case. They're trying to recruit like a company recruits, and they provide all different types of incentives. So I don't know exactly, even if we had that data, if it would directly correlate to this benefit. What I would say is, if you think about the age bracket for this, in Connecticut, give or take 5,000 guardsmen active, completing either their regular full-time duty or the traditional M-Day role, you would have to have had a child that's 18 years old, and then you'd have had to still be in the military. So I think the pool gets very narrow quickly.
I certainly appreciate your testimony. I certainly look forward to the committee exploring this further as we move into session, and look forward to seeing you up here again. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Representative Delaney has one more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Representative. Thank you for your service, for your testimony, and welcome back to the building. I have a quick service. Well, thank you for yours. I have a quick clarifying question. By tuition waiver, tuition assistance, are you referring to the state's tuition waiver? And by giving it to dependents, you're talking about mirroring the same policy that we use with the GI Bill that allows veterans to pass that on to their dependents?
Yes. If the soldier is on good status, there's other requirements by these other states. I've drafted up legislation that could be replicated, but they would have to meet certain standards and thresholds, and the tuition waiver would be excellent for retention purposes, particularly for soldiers, and to make sure they stay in our communities long term as their students excel and go through that. But yes, it would be tied to tuition waiver, probably within state schools.
Roger that. And I would just like you to know, for your edification, that some of my colleagues and I have put in an OLR and OFA request to figure out the fiscal cost, or the fiscal cost to implementing that kind of policy.
Okay, great.
So thank you for your testimony, and I look forward to continuing the discussion.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Roger
I
that.
appreciate all your time and all your efforts.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker will be Brian DeConto. How you doing, Brian?
Good afternoon. My name is Brian DeConto. I live in the town of Wallingford. I'm here to request that the Veteran Committee reintroduce Senate Bill 345. And that bill is for veterans to get a free ride on Connecticut Transit. This bill is very important. I am a retired state employee who worked for the Connecticut Department of Labor as a veteran employment specialist, helping veterans in need. The targeted groups that I work with were homeless, disabled, and unemployed veterans. A little bit of my background, I had several offices. One office was at the Rocky Hill Veterans Home, where I worked with Commissioner Tom Sadi. From there, I would visit area homeless shelters and traditional housing units. I also had an office at the Newington VA Medical Building, where I worked with the vocational rehab team. My main office was at the American Job Center in Hartford, where I would help walk-in unemployed veterans. I also helped with the re-entry program for prior offenders. There's one thing in common that everyone in this group of veterans lack, and that is transportation. The issue was and continues to be a significant barrier to employment. I believe this bill would take away this barrier and help these veterans get back on their feet. Got a couple examples of things that happened, when I was working. Where I worked with a shelter in Hartford called South Park. They were at the south end of Hartford. My office was at the north end of Hartford, right on the Windsor line, and right down the street was the Day Hill Road Industrial Park. So I get several calls a week from Amazon, some of the other big warehouses down there looking for employees. How simple of a fix would it be is to give this homeless veterans who were living at the shelter a free bus pass to get to work, making, at least $20 an hour. Other examples that I had the veterans that were collecting unemployment. They found a job, but they didn't have any money to pay for car repairs. An example was a flat tire and a dead battery, but they lived on the bus line. So they had that free bus pass. They could get to work, save up enough money to pay for the flat tire or the dead battery. These are just some of the small things that make a difference in their lives. We're talking about a $2 bus ticket to get somebody to work, to get them back on their feet again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming before us. Any questions? Thank you. And thank you for your service also. Our next speaker is going to be Sylvester Salcido.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, Mr. Chair, members of the Veterans Committee. My name is Sylvester Salcido. I'm from Orange, and I'm a 20-year veteran of the United States Navy from 1979 to 1999. So I think I'm the third Cold War veteran in the room today. The reason I wanted to come before you this afternoon is, number one, I do want to thank my state representative, Mary Wellander, for sending me the notice by email that you were having this open public hearing, and also to my neighbor in Orange, Paul Tarbucks, who I know does a lot of work with veterans out of this building. So thank you to both of them, and as well to Michael here, who really helped shepherd me to get here on time and confirm that I was on the list of speakers. So this afternoon, I wanted to address two particular issues. Number one is really just a word of thanks. I turned 67 in 2 weeks, so I've been on Medicare since I turned 65, and also transferred most of my healthcare programs to the West Haven VA. And so in the past 2 years, living down the street in Orange from West Haven, I do want to be able to extend a warm thank you to all the staff members, the doctors, the nurses, the directors, people in the security, and everybody who works there to help all of us, the veterans who take advantage of the medical services that they provide every day. So that's, at least for my part, it's been a wonderful experience. It's been very smooth, and I appreciated everybody's cooperation and help, especially the people in the administrative and finance head of the house. So again, a big thank you to members of the VA in West Haven, as well as also I made a couple of visits to the Newington office, I think for some COVID vaccinations. And again, the staff have always been very polite, very professional, and always there to help serve me and my fellow veterans as far as I can see. The second issue I wanted to bring up today, which I'm really quite excited about, is this opportunity. It's sort of been a pet project of mine for the last decade or so, and it's about the statewide memorial park that we have here in front of the LOB and the State Armory. And it concerns a missing tablet. As you are all aware, the plaza has a granite marker for every significant battle that the United States military has been involved with since the Revolutionary War up until the latest involvement that we've had with, say, Iraq and Afghanistan. However, there is one glaring missing marker there from my perspective. I am Filipino-American by background. My father, by the way, is I should just mention, make a plug for him. My late dad was a defender of Bataan and Corregidor and a survivor of the Death March of 1942. So thanks to his survival skills, I'm here with you today. But back to the issue of this marker. We have a Spanish-American War marker, and then the following marker is World War I. What's missing there is the Philippine-American War, which in many monuments across the state and across the nation, you do have that iconic Spanish-American War monument of an iconic soldier, but it's all marked it's all marked Spanish-American War from 1898 to 1902. And that's just historically incorrect. Spanish-American War was only in 1898. And then from 1899 to 1902 is the Philippine-American War. So I know my time is up, but I certainly just want to bring that to this committee's attention. And if there's anybody in your staff who I can work with, what I'm really trying to do is coordinate perhaps some high school students who would like to work on this, because in many of our American history books, the Philippine-American War is not mentioned at all. So thank you for listening. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to
Thank you, sir, for
hear them out.
Thank you for coming today. And it doesn't look like there's any questions.
Okay.
But if you do reach out to
yeah, I do have some information packets here that I could probably leave with Michael, and I gave the co-chair one already, and my contact information is there. And again, thank you very much to all of you for listening to us.
Yeah, if you leave them with the clerk, he'll get them to us.
Yes, sir. Oh.
And our next speaker is Joe Kubik.
I do not see Joe online, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We're going to go down to Louis Angelio.
Yes, I have Louis online. I am adding him.
Hello, committee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, my name is Louis A. Angelo Jr. I'm a United States Marine Corps vet. I have issues while I was in Marine Corps. I went through boot camp, then ended up being on security guard on board a nuclear subtender, which I was around nuclear warheads during my time. And then I stood there for a year and then was stationed at Camp Lejeune. While I got out of the Marine Corps, I faced neurologist problems. I went for the first time about 19 years ago to the VA, and I was belittled at the time, and I left and never seek help. I just got on the VA. It's been over a year. I've been fighting for my disability. I had numerous people helping me through Congress. You guys are all doing a great job, but I don't have cancer, hope of not yet. I have the neurologist effect and other stuff. I put 14 claims on it. Basically, they said if I had the cancer part, we wouldn't be talking. I'd be getting my disability. I have 4 tumors in my head. I'm going for another MRI next week, and I was operated January 6th of 2005, and I have a scar from ear to ear and a metal plate in my head with 2 screws. And I'm seeking help if anybody can help, because there's supposed to be another hearing on this. And the state reps I talked to, I want to thank especially State Rep Al Palillo. He's the one who told me about this, because this was not notified to the public that I got aware of. And I'm just seeking help from anybody that can put me in the right direction.
Thank you, sir, for coming before us. And what I would request you to do is send us an email so we have your contact, and we'll be able to connect with you and try and send you in the correct direction.
Sir, I do. Senator Blumenthal has it. Mr. Larson's office has it. I have everybody trying to help. I was taken out of work by the neurologist from the VA hospital as of June 20th of this year. I don't even know, since I heard this today, I'm going to reach out to the different communities, because I haven't been paid or anything, and it's starting to get scary at this. And I'm a single father, and I have 3 lovely young grandchildren. I like to see them grow up. And right now I'm at the difficult stage of my life. I'm 61 years old. So any feedback will be deeply appreciated.
Thank you.
But
sir.
everybody has it. State attorney. I mean, I went to, when the military, they had a Rocky Hill stand down. I reached out to everybody. So I'm going to end up getting, I have a lawyer, and even we're just waiting on, we keep on getting denied because it, not cancerous and stuff, but I have the other part of the Camp Lejeune stuff, which I think is totally wrong. I served my country. Now I'm asking for a little help back. You know, I paid my way, and I would do it again. It's just at a scary moment in my life, wonder what's going to happen next. PTSD, I have it severely. Just walking outside without a hat, people looking at me, you know, and wonder if I'm going to wake up, if the other 4 will leak out and I have to do another surgery. This is stuff I do on a daily basis.
Sir, which town are you from? I'm sorry.
I'm from Bristol, Connecticut, sir.
Okay. Can I request that you reach out to your state rep, your Connecticut state rep, and then they'll maybe connect you with me, and then I'll try and connect with you so that we can take care of or help you in the right direction.
All right. I want to thank you. I want to thank the committee for letting me talk, and I appreciate what all you guys do. But let's keep our veterans standing strong, because I love my country. And fortunately, if I had to do it again, I would do it again.
Well, sir, we really appreciate you for your service, and thank you for coming before us today. And we hope to talk soon.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day, and happy Veterans Day to my brothers and sisters.
Our next speaker is going to be Jim McMahon.
I don't see him online, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And the next speaker, 38, will be Lauren Taylor.
I have Lauren online, adding her now.
Thank you. Laureen Taylor. Laureen, can you unmute your computer? While we're waiting for Laureen, we're going to go to the next person, which is going to be Andrea Hunt. Good afternoon, Andrea. Thank you for hanging in there for us.
Okay, DAV's Chapter 13 and some of the members of American Legion. And the reason why I'm here is actually, we spoke on a lot of different aspects of veterans benefits, so I'll focus specifically on benefits for reserve component service members who unfortunately are least likely to get the benefits they've earned in accordance to federal policy. And so as an example, I generally will come up from DC if you have a National Guard member who's eligible for medical retirement. So one of the differences between some of a previous generation of veterans and post 9/11 veterans are that they may be eligible for medical retirement if their benefits are assessed properly. So there's a particular veteran who PTSD was blown up, TBI, several other issues, who could not access his benefits because in most cases, the state may not know how to process those benefits. So some of the Guard units, if they've not gone to training at National Guard Bureau headquarters, or they just may not comply with the policy, that service member may not be able to access their benefits. So I think it's important because there are so many benefits for reserve component service members that they never access. One of which being TRICARE Reserve Select. Also, if they don't properly retire or separate from the military, they may lose their post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, as will their families.
That's good information to have.
So actually, I have a book here I will leave with you. These are actually most of the federal laws that have been investigated by the Government Accountability Office and the VA Office of the Inspector General. And so basically, it's consistent non-compliance with laws that are passed by Congress. And so Congress gets a lot of criticism, but when they actually do their work, the problem is there isn't a mechanism of enforcement at the local level so that the service members don't have to hire an attorney. That's all for me.
Any questions? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Hunt, you came a long ways. I appreciate what you're saying. And I'm a retired reserve component and I know how to deal with all the paperwork with stuff. What was your organization in case the committee needs to contact you? And
Oh, so I found an organization of just the Uniformed Service Member Alliance Corporation. And the reason why I did that is I actually had an office at Walter Reed Bethesda as part of the Warrior Transition Unit. And just kind of give some of my background, I worked at Fort Hood at the Wounded Warrior Brigade from 2007 and 2009 before deploying to Afghanistan. So I got an opportunity to be able to, in the early stages, help to develop policy, implement policy, but it was pretty horrible to see the fact that even though we had these great policies, they were not being implemented equally across all components.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for bringing that literature, and if you can get it to the clerk, he'll share it, and then maybe be able to copy it and send it to others.
Yeah,
or-
so actually I put the entire reports that were in there, so you'd actually be able to go to GAO's website, reference those studies, and then also the VA Office of Inspector General. I tried to limit it to one specific to National Guard and Reserve because there was actually a report that just came out through GAO saying actions are needed to address challenges that reserve component service members face assessing compensation. So what that means is if their disabilities are not fairly assessed, it means it'll either take longer to get their benefits and they'll be ineligible for medical retirement from the Department of Defense. So that's a big thing for post 9/11 service members. That also takes a huge financial burden off the states because it's paid for under the auspices of the National Defense Authorization Act.
Thank you for that information. If you have a few minutes to hang around, I'll chat with you right after. But I appreciate you coming the long way that you have to represent the veterans. This is an example of what we do for those who've come and fought so hard before us. to make sure we take care of them. Thank you.
Well, thank you for welcoming.
And we have, I believe, Winton Hill. Hello, sir. You were here all day, along with the few left. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, and to Representative Delaney, our Stanford representative. Thank you for the invitation to share, and to my fellow volunteers at the Stanford Resource Center. Thank you to the Veterans Committee hearing. I am honored to testify today concerning the needs of the legislative support for our state veterans. My wife and I joined with other volunteers, and my wife and I together have volunteered over 1,000 hours a year to the Veterans Resource Center in Stamford, Connecticut. And we have discovered that there is a need for various services. Mr. Patterson eloquently shared some of our success stories, but we still have some challenges. And one of the challenges that we face is the number of people who come who really deserve benefits, but we need a service officer to be available to help us. And we need, I think in some of the communities, we need the service officers to be available to come and spend some time in the city. In our center, if we could have the service officer come and just spend 2 days a month with us, it would help some of our veterans to navigate the system. They have real needs that have been identified by the VA, but just getting through that maze that is created, they need the technical support of those who are professionally trained. We also are facing the challenge that everybody in Connecticut is facing, and that is the acceleration of rent payments. So veterans who have stable incomes are now being challenged in terms of their ability to remain in secure housing. Families are being affected by this, and we need to ask you to be our advocate, because we need housing for veterans, and it needs to be deeply affordable. Many places are taunting the fact that we have affordable housing, but when you live in an area where the median income is $120,000, affordable housing is $60,000, and that's much more than many people have as their annual income. I applaud the work of this committee and the important work that you are doing. And I just want to lift up the slogan of the VA, that the task is to care for those who have borne the battle and for their families, for their caregivers and their survivors. I speak to you as a third-generation Army combat veteran. And this country is the greatest country that has ever been on the face of the earth. And our possibilities are in front of us and not in back of us. And we do need to embrace those who have given so much, and those few people who have been willing to stand guard and stand between us and danger. So thank you so much. And whatever funding you can help us with as we create a safe space for veterans. Now, I am also a former Army chaplain, retired minister. Many people who are veterans don't call and say, "Chaplain, I need counseling." They come into the day room. They sit in the day room. They get comfortable. Then they say, "Chaplain, you know, I haven't been sleeping well lately," or "I've been drinking a little bit too much lately," or "I lost my way." And we need to create more safe spaces. And I'm asking the state in your as you meet in your legislative session, to see if there's some funds that can be available for safe space for our veterans as they struggle to normalcy. Thank you so much. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to see you, Reverend Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to wait all the way to the end and for being brave and giving your testimony. I think what you said really rings true with me. There's a quote from Colin Powell that means a lot. It says that leadership is people trusting you with their problems. If they don't, it's because they think you either A, don't care enough to help, or B, don't think you can help. And I think the work that you and all of our volunteers at the Veterans Resource Center does is invaluable. Thank you for coming up here to fight for the expansion of the program and for all the work that you've done to make people feel comfortable enough to trust us with their problems.
Thank you.
Cool.
Anyone else? No? And we have someone who was able to get online, Lauren Taylor.
Yes, Mr. Chair, she's raising her hand, so I think she could talk now.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Thank you for your patience. I had to switch from my phone Zoom to my computer Zoom. Thank you, committee members, for allowing me to speak this afternoon. My name is Laureen Taylor. I applied for and received the Connecticut Wartime Service Award in 2016. My home of record for wartime service is my family home, located in the Barham section of Greenwich, Connecticut. I served in the Army Nurse Corps from 1988 to 1992 after graduating from Fairfield University School of Nursing and the ROTC Army Scholarship Program at the University of Bridgeport. I had a support role in the Persian Gulf War. Also, my husband served. He deployed with the 1st Infantry Division, Fort Riley, Kansas. He has a VA disability rating. I separated from service in 1992, Fort Riley, Kansas. I returned to Connecticut in 2016 and sought employment using the CT Workforce Center. I received helpful assistance from Jared Esposito, the veteran representative with whom I met, and I really appreciated the help that he provided to me. Today, I submitted by email 3 questions to the program assistant, Mr. Michael Shannon. I will focus on question 1. It was in response to Representative Rachel Khanna. She is representative for the district in Greenwich and Stamford. She made a remark at the start of today's hearing regarding those seeking employment in Connecticut for veteran preferences. My question is, are all employers in Connecticut required to follow the veteran hiring preference rules established by the federal government? According to Representative Khanna, she made comments about tax incentives for Connecticut companies to entice them to offer jobs to veterans. But that's different from the federal program, correct? Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming before us today. Is there any questions? Have a nice day, ma'am. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Could you repeat that?
I'm sorry, what would you like me to repeat?
Your last question, I'm sorry.
Oh, I only wanted to focus on that first question I submitted by email. And that's basically what I'm trying to determine, what happens in Connecticut with the Connecticut, veteran hiring preference to help veterans be selected for employment over non-veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And we will definitely get back to you in regards to your email. And our next speaker will be Bridget Price. The red, white, and blue. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to sit in front of this committee. I am definitely a very proud, honorable disabled veteran, having served in the United States Army in the Cold War from 82 to 87. And since then, the past 35 years, I think I have been a very active professional veteran. So everything I wanted to say here, I think it was really highlighted. Jobs, housing, what the chaplain just referred to, affordable housing. I did want to actually say something real quick about hopefully veterans being able to receive a classification in the housing regulations under 830G, as the elderly are and as disabled, not specifically veterans disabled, but I brought this up maybe a couple of years ago in a session, and I think veterans, especially when it comes to affordable housing, we're left out, and a lot of us cannot afford it. And also wanted to stress that with a lot of the apartments coming up in Connecticut, I'm going to talk specifically about Hartford luxury apartments that are definitely out of range and out of reach for the average working person to pay for. Veterans, what I'm asking is that if you can consider, if the state is giving money to a developer to develop market rate apartments, that possibly there could be some accommodations for veterans to, for units to be set aside. So veterans might have an opportunity to live in those quality dwellings. So I brought that up a couple years ago. Hopefully it'd be something that's considered. But what I want to talk about today is the 29th Colored Volunteer Infantry Regiment. During Juneteenth, Rep. Nolan, Anthony Nolan, and I, we were in the Old North Cemetery on Main Street in North Hartford. In that cemetery, and I was also looking for a designation. Let me just back up a little bit. A designation for these Civil War soldiers. I know I called the State Veterans State Veterans Cemetery. And they said they didn't qualify because Old North is not an actual veteran cemetery. But I said, you have 26 Civil War soldiers buried there who were really credited for being the first regiment to enter into Richmond, Virginia, to overtake General Robert E. Lee. And they're buried right here in Connecticut's capital city. But when you go into the cemetery, you would never know that we had this veterans distinction there. And I think a lot of it is because of the location. It's in the north end of Hartford, and the cemetery basically looks like everything else in the north end of Hartford. So I called Anthony Nolan actually sent him an email maybe a month ago, to ask him what was happening here. And he said this public hearing was happening. So I wanted to come and ask if the Veterans Committee could help with maybe getting a distinction, getting something in that cemetery, even getting the tombstones refurbished and marked to honor this very elite regiment who is the reason why, the Union won the Army. Well, one of the main reasons. So that is my hope that time's up. That's my hope that maybe we can do something like that, and even have at some point have the 29th Support Colored Volunteer Regiment have a plaque or something here in the state capitol, so anybody coming here to visit knows that this unit, was very significant. We have a very important part of American history right here in Connecticut's capital, and it's really sad that we don't know it. People don't know it. So those couple things, housing and luxury, veterans being able to have a 10%, 15%, 20% set asides and luxury housing if the state contributes to these developers, and also honoring the 29th Colored Volunteer Infantry Regiment buried in the north end of Hartford. And there's 26 soldiers there. That's a lot of soldiers. So New Haven has a beautiful monument to that regiment. Norwich has a beautiful, and I know if you've been through Norwich, you see it. They're beautiful. It's almost like a veterans park. And there's other places. You have right over here in New Britain, they have the Iwo Jima, but in Hartford, where you have the Civil War veterans, there's nothing. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Have a great evening. Happy Veterans Day to everyone.
Thank you for coming before us. I look forward to you reaching out to remind us and to meet in regards to the old cemetery. That event was such a great event to see and to hear and to be educated about the soldiers that came before that lit the way for us to be as we are today. So thank you for your staunch support to make things like they should be. And I look forward to working with you to try and make them look greater.
I appreciate that, Representative Nolan. And thank you, Senator Olson. We will talk again about veterans housing for women at some point. Thank you, everyone.
There's no other questions or concerns. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I'm wishing all those that are watching a happy Veterans Day. We really appreciate the service that you have provided us and the fight that you continue to be staunch about. So please continue to reach out to us and contact us to make sure you're holding our feet to the fire. Everyone have a nice day. I would like to offer my